Enugu State is also known for its traditional arts including wood carving, pottery, weaving, and music. Enugu's cultural traditions help promote community cohesion, social bonding, and cultural identity. In the past, Enugu's economy was largely driven by coal mining. During the colonial era, Enugu was one of Nigeria's major industrial and economic centers. Today, Enugu's economy has become more diversified with some key sectors which includes agriculture, trade and markets, education and government, tourist centers. Enugu State is an important part of Nigeria, known for its cultural richness, peaceful environment, rich history and tourist attractions. From its coal mining history to its current role as an educational and cultural hub, Enugu continues to grow and contribute greatly to the development of Nigeria.
The soul is part of us that survives every storm. You can't see it, but you can feel it in silence, in longing, in every heartbeat that keeps going. It asks for more than food and fame. It hungers for meaning, for stillness, for the divine. The soul is where music is born, where peace begins, where truth hides. To care for your soul is the greatest act of self-love. For in the end, what we were fades, but what we are at our core remains.
Stars, moon, rainbow, and rain, heavenly bodies. The night sky reminds us we are part of something vast. Stars guide, the moon soothes, rain renews, and rainbows inspire. Even in darkness, light exists. Look up, there's beauty and wonder above.
Humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is the quiet dignity of those who serve when no one claps. And right isn't in volume. And honor isn't always visible. The humble carry unseen power. They lift others without needing a pedestal. And in doing so, they rise higher than ego ever could.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Enugu State. And good morning, our global audience. Welcome to the Sunrise on Aneke TV. Wherever you are, at home, in your office, or in traffic, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. As always, we're here to refresh, inform, and motivate. It's Monday, October 13, 2025. So welcome you to another day, another bright and refreshing edition of the Sunrise. So this morning, we'll have everything you need, ranging from newspaper reviews, updates on trending stories, and review of all headlines, as may be seen. So all will be dropped very unique on Sunrise this morning. And we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll take a look at quote of the day. So welcome back. Our quote of the day today is coming from Maya Angelou. And the quote, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." Let me take that one more time. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. The quote by Maya Angelou is a powerful message about resilience, courage, and perseverance in the face of life changes. Now, in trying to interpret Maya Angelou's quote, he simply reminds us that failure and hardship are natural. They are part of life, but they do not define who we are. Whatever we do, we must encounter challenges. Failure could stare us in the face, but it doesn't really define who we are. Our response to them does. To encounter defeats means we might experience loss, rejection, or pain. Yet, being defeated means giving up hope, purpose, or self-relief. So, even when things go wrong, Angelou encourages us to rise above our struggles. Every setback can be a lesson, an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more determined. In essence, the quote also tells us, you might fall down many times, but never let those falls stop you from standing up again. Broader life lessons from the quote. It talks about resilience. True strength is not the absence of failure, but the ability to bounce back after it. Speaking to hope, keeping faith and optimism alive even when situations seem hopeless. Then, talking to character. Defeats test our character, and enduring them with courage shapes who we become. Then, in talking about Maya's own life experience, you can recall that Maya's own life reflected his philosophy. She faced racism, trauma, and personal hardship. Yet, that transformed her pain into poetry, moved into activism and wisdom. Her resilience inspired millions to see that the human spirit can rise above adversity. In essence, this quote is a reminder to never let temporary defeat, temporary setback, destroy your spirit. It is okay to struggle, but never okay to stop trying. So, we may infer that Maya, in this quote, summed the essence and the very being of our struggle in life. It doesn't matter how many times you fail, you will have to see each fallings as a step closer to success. It doesn't matter what obstacle, what setback you encounter. See them all as a learning process, as a learning curve towards your march, your effort to attaining that very high goal of success. So, this morning on Sunrise, we are being encouraged through this quote to remain resilient, keep fighting, despite whatever we see on the road. Doesn't matter how many times. No matter the challenges, keep fighting. The more you fight, the closer you get to the glory. So this morning, pick up yourself. If you felt defeated, if you felt abandoned, encourage yourself. Do not wait for people to encourage you. Do not let people to match you on the way when you've fallen. Don't become a stepping stone for another person. Pick yourself up. Get up. Keep fighting. The more you fight, the more adept, the better you become. Remember, fighting makes a soldier. The more battle tested a soldier is, the more upliftment, the more promotion a soldier gets. So let's see ourselves as soldiers. It doesn't matter the sphere of life. It doesn't matter the area of life where we operate from. See yourself as that soldier who needs to get battle tested, pick himself up, and keep moving. With that, we most definitely, like Maya Angelou has told us, that victory must be in sight. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll take a look at today's weather across major cities in the southeast. You're still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Stay tuned as we take a look at the weather reports across major cities in the southeast today. Starting from the city of Oka in Anambra State. Overnight, we have thunderstorms lingering into the early hours. As morning unfolds, showers and rain will become more frequent, continuing through midday. Afternoon holds periods of cloudy skies with scattered rain and the possibility of more thunderstorms later in the day. Temperatures will range roughly between 22 degrees Celsius and 28 degrees Celsius. And over to the coal city of Enugu. Welcome to Enugu's forecast. Skies remain cloudy through much of the night and into early morning. By late morning to early afternoon, a spell showers setting in with rain intensifying as we move into evening. Thunderstorms are possible towards nightfall. Daytime highs will reach around 30 degrees Celsius, with lows dipping to about 22 degrees Celsius. A wet, humid day awaits. Keep dry and stay safe. And over to Abakaliki. Rain will be a recurring theme from early in the day. Showers start in the morning, escalating into heavier rain by mid to late afternoon, possibly with thunderstorms at night. Temperatures will hover between 22 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. Plan indoor activities if possible, and if you must be out, aim for covered roads. And moving over to the Javin city of Owerri. The night begins cloudy, but rain is expected to edge by the early morning hours. The day will see periods of rain and showers, particularly from midday onward. Expect more wet spells late in the evening. Possible thunderstorms. Daytime highs may peak near 30 degrees Celsius, while lows may dip to 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. Stay alert for sudden downpours, especially later in the day. And finally, moving to Abia State, in the city of Umuahia, overnight clouds persist, and morning cloud brings scattered showers. By late morning into afternoon, rain becomes more widespread. Temperatures will climb to about 31 degrees Celsius, with nighttime lows close to 23 degrees Celsius. Thunderstorms may close the day. So, carry rain protections at all times. So, wherever you are in Southeast today, stay safe, stay dry, and be safe. But do remember that rain or shine, we've got you covered. This weather report on Sunrise on Aneke TV. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll begin to look at the newspaper headlines. newspapers today, starting from the Vanguard. Non-oil exports, local investors of 4.8 trillion boom. Vanguard newspaper, the major headline reads, non-oil exports, local investors lose out of 4.8 trillion boom. And moving over to the Punch headline, ASU rejects FG's proposal, begins 2-week strike today. Let's take that again. The Punch newspaper, ASU rejects FG proposal, begins 2-week strike today. And moving over to the Guardian newspaper, we have criticism, outrage, suspicion, trail presidential pardon of 175. Criticism, outrage, suspicion, trail presidential pardon of 175. And moving over to the Nation newspaper, the major headline on the Nation newspaper reads, Federal government to ASU, strike may trigger no work, no pay rule. I take that again. Federal government to ASU, strike may trigger no work, no pay rule. And joining us for the review of these headlines, our guest this morning is Mr. Chris Anibogo. Mr. Chris Anibogo.
Thank you, Uche.
Yes.
Happy New Week to you.
Yeah, I mean, happy New Year. How was your weekend?
Well, if there was ever a weekend, it's just like every other day. It came, it went.
All right.
And here we are now.
It's a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you very
Now,
much.
let's start with the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper talks about non-oil exports. Local investors lose out of 4.8 trillion boom.
Well, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we are still on this lane, that we have refused to promote and grow our local economy. The last time I checked, Nigeria has been struggling over the, oil sector, which has remained monopolistic as far as our economic development and expansion is concerned. Since the discovery of oil in the 70s, we abandoned every other sector in Nigeria, especially the agricultural sector, which was the mainstay of our economy, before the discovery of the oil boom. We know that the other sectors thrived, especially agriculture. Between the three zones then, as we were zoned by the colonial masters, the east, the west, and the north, each zone actually, had some level of competition with the other. While in the southeast, we know that it was about palm oil production, where the likes of Nnamdi Azikiwe and even Michael Okpara, who took over later on, were able to develop the southeast. Not just southeast, but the eastern part of the country. They did well developing education. That was where UNN was built. A lot of other things that were done by these individuals. In the West, it was cocoa, just cocoa, predominantly cocoa production. And the likes of Bafemi Awolowo was able to develop the southwestern Nigeria through that path. And then you have the Bafemi Awolowo University, established. You go to the north, it was all about groundnut. We'll talk about the groundnut pyramid in the northern part of Nigeria. Ahmed Bello and his likes were able to pool resources from that sector. It was greatly competitive between the three blocks. Yes. But then oil came. And since oil came, since we discovered oil, it has become a cost blessing. A cost blessing. The discovery of oil is supposed to be a blessing to us as a people, but it has become a curse. We've abandoned every other sector. And since 1999, when democracy returned again, We saw successive governments come into office claiming to diversify the economy, to push away from over-concentration and over-reliance on oil so that we could develop other sectors, especially agriculture. But then here we are. Since the last administration under late Muhammadu Buhari, we started talking about, the mining sector, the mining sector. Nigeria is blessed with huge mineral resources that will be enough to cater for the citizens of this country, even without depending on one penny coming from the oil sector. I doubt if there is, or predominantly any geopolitical zone in Nigeria, as we have 6 of us now in the country, that cannot boast of up to how many mineral resources, in their soil. So now, what are we doing with the mining sector? When Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into office as president, he appointed Aneke, who happens to be a kitchen cabinet member to the president right from their days in Lagos when Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the governor of Lagos. So we thought that there was this genuine plan, to galvanize the mineral resources, solid minerals. But then ask me, Uche, what have we done with it? We just have foreigners coming to benefit from the huge mineral resources in Nigeria. How can we have local investors? How can we have local miners in Nigeria? But they are not being given the license to operate. Look at the huge sum of money we're talking about that we have lost. 4 trillion naira. Not a penny going into the hands of the local investors. It's a shame. It's a shame that in the year 2025 we are still on this path. We should be thinking manufacturing. We should be thinking production, local manufacturing. Otherwise, I don't know. Our economy is not going to grow. It's not going to grow. You go to the north, you begin to ask yourself, Uche, since the insecurity crisis in the north have been, raging, how come you continue seeing expatriates coming into Nigeria? Domiciled in the northern part of Nigeria where insecurity seems to be so predominant. We have our Besans living in Nigeria in their droves, but then you see expatriates coming into Nigeria and residing in the northern part of Nigeria. What do you think they are doing there? They are milking our mineral resources and taking them away. That is just the politics going on. So until we have a serious-minded government that will come into office and say, no, enough of this. We need to give room to our local investors, our local manufacturers, our local miners to have access to tapping the resources in the country. Then maybe we could begin to get serious. That's my take on it.
All right, very apt. Now, we'll move over to the Punch newspaper headline. ASU rejects FG's proposal, begins 2-week strike today. The usual ASU and strike.
Call it national anthem.
So ASU has become synonymous with strikes in Nigeria.
Honestly.
Whenever we hear ASU, we'll know that next strike is imminent.
Let me share an experience with you. Some time
Okay.
ago, I was attending a burial ceremony somewhere. The master of ceremony happened to recognize the chairperson of one of the local schools in town. So when he said, ASU, the same master of ceremony replied by saying, strike. They picked offense because they were not actually on strike then, but he was just trying to pass the message.
It has become synonymous to when, prior to this period in Nigeria, when the light goes off and suddenly you see light, the children will shout,
never.
NEPA. So
So ASU and
it
strike.
becomes synonymous with strike.
But
So-
Uche, is it not a shame to this country that in the year 2025, we are still on the same path that we left off during the days of military in politics? When Bola Ahmed Tinubu was campaigning for his election, 2022, 2023, what he said about the university system is, one, that a 4-year course will remain a 4-year course for the Nigerian student. That you will not be admitted to run a 4-year course, and then you stay beyond 4 years. I could still remember vividly, these were his exact statements. But you can imagine, But then again, I still want to give kudos to the government for sustaining the pressure for the past 2 years they've been in office. At least we've not heard of a strike from anywhere since the past 2 years. But that does not mean that all was actually well. I guess maybe somehow ASU was paying a listening ear to the government side. Maybe they were just being patient, knowing that the government just came into office newly, so they needed to give some time. Maybe that's, it's been a grave silence, grave peace, kind of thing. But then for ASU, for quite some time now, they started calling on the government. Let's revisit our negotiation with the government. Agreements were entered into since 2009, which how many years down the line? This is 2025. This is our educational sector, the highest citadel, the peak of it all. No nation will ever be serious, will ever be considered serious, especially in the Committee of International Nations, if your educational system is not up and doing. It's quite laughable. And this is why within the Committee of Nations outside Nigeria, they look at us as a very unserious set of people. How could you be jeopardizing the future of your young ones? Who's going to suffer it at the end of the day? The students. And then indirectly, the parents are going to, be hit by it, because by the time your child is supposed to spend 4 years in school, and then you are keeping him up to 5-6 years, you know what the cost, you know the cost implication on the parents. So at the end of the day, we know that federal government and ASU will still come to a negotiating table. They will still agree. And peace again will be brokered, and they will return to school. But then, what has that left the students with? I mean, it's a shame, and it's quite painful. ASU, the other time they held their meeting in, I think I was in Sokoto or so, gave the federal government 3 weeks. And they complained that within that 3 weeks, no statement came from the government side to them. And they felt insulted. They felt neglected. And that's why they now came up with this. But if you listen to the government side, especially the Minister of Education, Alausa, talking about this thing, he seems to be saying that they've been calling on the ASU president, the ASU, is it president or chairman now?
President.
To give them a listening ear. They've released this amount of money. They released, I think, out of 300 and something billion naira that ASU was asking for their allowances or so. The government has released up to 50
They've released 50 billion with a promise to add 150 billion in the 2025 budget.
2026.
No, they said, okay,
Because
2025
is gone.
Yes,
That should be
2026
budget. But then these things are adjustment stories. Why wouldn't they have a meeting point? Is it too difficult for the minister to call the ASU president and invite him for a meeting, then where they will sit and then iron out these differences? Must he be on the phone? Must one be in Rome and the other one in...
Mr. Chris, there have been a negotiation between them.
Okay.
And from the foregoing, it's as if the proposals that what the federal government has tabled doesn't sit well with ASU at this point in time. And they went ahead to instruct all their members, affiliate members, to across the country to down tools. However, like you did mention, it was reported that having issued that ultimatum, that they refuse to take calls from the Minister of Education. And like you've really pointed out, it shouldn't continue to be this cat and
a dog kind of chase around. There should be a meeting point between the two of them. Because even at the expression of these 2 weeks, government will still have a meeting, a dialogue with ASU. Okay. So, but at the end of the day, who suffers?
But Chris, yes, at the end of the day, who suffers? The issue now, like you've pointed out, is that a 4-year course will end up stretching to 5 to 6 years.
That's right.
But the point here is, must ASU have to go on a strike to get government to really negotiate on these issues?
Well, it is within the ambit of the law for labor unions, to go on strike. But before going on strike, before strike, there are other options. Protest is there. There are other options, maybe warning, but when you exhaust every other, option available, I mean, for instance, between the husband and the wife in a home, how do you get your husband to listen to you as a woman if maybe you refuse to cook in the house? You know, when the man goes hungry, he begins to now ask you, what's going on? Where's my food? So at that point, he's now talking. So I think the last resort for ASU is always strike, because when they go on strike, then maybe they now pull the government forcefully to listen.
Listen. All right, but Chris, the point I'm trying to make here is, should it be until ASU adopts that wife mechanism before federal government listens? Being that what we're looking at are negotiations that have been entered into fair to this administration since 2009 that has not been adhered to. And the question I'm asking here is, does the federal government has to wait to be reminded of this agreement that has been entered into? Why not take a preemptive and comprehensive approach to these issues, see that they are resolved
Before
before
in order
ASU
to
start
avert
avert these scenarios where ASU had to embark on warning strike upon warning strikes before the federal government are able to come to the table to negotiate?
these things just depend on whatever any particular administration decides to prioritize. If you prioritize education, then you will have your blueprints of what your government seeks to achieve in that educational sector over time. Do you understand? But most of the time, we'll have people who, with all due respect, may not be so academically inclined. Are you with me? Aha. They may not be so academically inclined, but then they find themselves within the corridors of power. So you don't expect such a kind of persons to now prioritize education. So they only listen when you come calling. Do you understand the point? Otherwise, this particular government, this particular administration, we saw when on their own volition decided to increase the salaries of judges in Nigeria. They even had to give out Prado jeeps to the top judicial workers. Do you understand? Even to the military. To the military, the senior ranking officers within the military, structure. The other time again, we heard that the federal government was planning on increasing payments for political office holders. So you see where the priorities seem to be lying. But for the education sector, the practitioners, we need to come and knock on the door and cry loud before the government says, oh, we know you are there, but just hold on, we are coming. For how long will they have to hold on? Uche, I don't know, government is in continuum. So whenever any government comes into office, whether you are new, whether you are old, you inherit both liabilities and benefits. For instance, if Nigeria is servicing the debts owed by previous administrations now, you just inherited the liability. Do you understand the point? Now, if the previous administration has done well with the economy and you happen to come in as a new government, you're going to inherit what? The benefits. So for somebody to say that it wasn't really this administration that got into that agreement with ASU, why is ASU not being patient enough? We're talking about learned men and women, the people producing the future leaders of tomorrow. How much is the salary of a professor in Nigeria? It should be less than 500,000 a monthly. How much is the salary of a ward councillor? You're from your ward. How much does your councillor earn a month?
So,
do you know how many professors that we have lost in this country? No, per year, each year. Brain drain. And these people took time, took resources to get to where they are at the peak of their career in the educational sector. Listen, we will be joking with everything we are doing here until we begin to think straight and normal with the education sector. If you allow ASU, they always fall back to strike because that's the only way they can draw the government's attention. But the government needs not wait till ASU goes on strike before they call their attention to say, okay, come, see our proposal for you. We're going to increase your salaries. We're going to increase your working years. Maybe if the age of retirement is 65, we want to increase that for professors to 70 so that we could still be tapping from your huge, enormous resources and the rest of them. We just need to start thinking right on how to improve. The younger ones now refer to education as a scam because of these things happening. A lot of them are losing interest in education and the rest of them, but it's not healthy for us as a people. So we beg ASU, if you're saying 2 months warning strike, please, at the expiration of 2 weeks, right? At the expression of the two is, please kindly return to school. And we beg the government to please go into negotiation with them, plead with them, at least from now till before the next 2 weeks comes. Nigerians need to know your conclusion on this matter.
All right. Now, moving over to the Guardian newspaper. Criticism, outrage, suspicion trail presidential pardon of 175. Mr. Chris,
Yes, sir.
what's your take on this state pardon?
It's an annual tradition. Presidents and governors have that as their constitutional powers and rights to set free people imprisoned, you know, over 1 or 2 issues, cases, or charges. I know that the Constitution has provided for that, rights and powers to be given to the president and the governor. So it is not a new thing that we'll begin to see inmates, set free through opportunities like this. However, I think what is actually raising the criticism, the dust over this very particular development is a caliber of persons involved who were actually pardoned by Mr. President, especially when you look at the cases against some of them. Who are they? Some, are not necessarily political, victims. Some of them are actually hard criminals, drug addicts, drug peddlers. So it is the right and the powers of Mr. President to grant pardon. So anyone saying why, then it means you are not in tune with the obvious reality. So the president has not done anything unconstitutional. He has not gone out of his way to, arbitrarily use power. He's within within the ambit of his rights and powers. It's not just in Nigeria that this happens. Even in the United States, we saw where Barack Obama, before he left office, granted a pardon to some persons. But why this is actually raising dust in Nigeria now is, look at the case with, what's her name? One of the persons pardoned, a woman.
Mariam Sanda?
Look at her case. A woman who murdered her husband. I mean, and then she's granted pardon. What does that tell? Are we trying to celebrate criminality? No, because if you've taken people's lives carelessly, ignorantly, or willfully, the law says you have to go in for it. You're going to suffer it. And if the law has said life imprisonment, if the law has said this number of period for you in incarceration, then you go in for it. Because the families of the people of the deceased, they're really not going to find it funny. They won't be happy about it. That the person who has taken the life of their family member has been set free just like that. Then for the drug peddlers who were actually set free, I mean, if you belong to the security bodies in Nigeria, which you would not be smiling at this point in time, because if you know what it takes, that's taking the NDLEA in Nigeria to try to sanitize our Nigerian society, to make sure that the society is free of, drug trafficking and the rest of them. Especially what Buba Marwa has been doing with NDLEA. This time around, I don't think they have been encouraged to even do more. What it takes them to track suspects, apprehend them, take them through the law process, through the courts, and then they are sentenced. And now such persons are just granted freedom. It's discouraging. But the president must exercise his powers. It's within the ambit of his powers.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the final paper, the Nation newspaper. Still talking about the ASU strike. Federal government to ASU. Strike may trigger no work, no payroll.
Okay. That's still going to make the matter worse. It's like moving from bad to worse.
Okay.
Why is ASU striking? They are striking over poor remuneration, poor working conditions. They're asking for allowances to be paid. They want their payments to be increased. And you remember, during the last administration under Muhammadu Buhari, when they went on strike, the government then said, no work, no pay. I think that strike lasted for 8 months, if I am still right. 8 months it lasted. So for that period, the lecturers were denied their salaries. And it became part of the agitation, Uche, that when Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into office, he now gave order for the release of that money. So if now ASU is going on strike over poor working conditions, and now you are trying to to bring up that no work no pay policy, I mean that's going to worsen the whole situation. It's going to worsen the situation. I think what the government should be doing this time around is, they have not said a month, they have not said 2 months, they said 2 weeks. So within these 2 weeks, please can you call ASU to dialogue on the table, so that at the expiration of 2 weeks, then let the information, let the news coming to Nigerians is that ASU and government has found a common ground, and now they are not going to be going to strike anymore, that they have resolved their differences. And moving forward, this is how it's going to be. The template that the negotiation, the agreements will now begin to flow. Other than this, no work, no pay. It's going to worsen the situation, I tell you.
All right.
It will. And it's not fair anyway.
Okay. No work, no pay is going to worsen the situation.
That's right.
All right. We've heard it all, going by the warning strike from ASU. I hope the federal government is listening to us, and ASU as well is listening to us, while our role seems to be that of advisory. We would call on the federal government to please do not pander to the side of who is right or wrong this time, but consider the plight of the Nigerian students whose poor parents have carved out these resources to see that they are in school, and see to it that this issue of warning strike doesn't linger, that this issue is resolved as soon as possible. Being that ASU had given notice to the federal government since the 15th of August, having concluded their NEC meeting and came out with the resolution that if their demands were not met, they will be embarking on these strikes. Then one is fun to ask, what are the issues that are causing this strike action from ASU? And like you've heard from our guest, he has pointed out that these issues, when you look at it, it has to do with either the issue of funding, welfare, and refunding of the universities. Look at, we're talking about withhold salaries, upholding negotiation that the federal government have entered into since 2009. What's stopping the implementation of this agreement? Or those federal governments wants to renegotiate the terms of this agreement? You talk about sustainable funding for our university. One will recall that just on Saturday, we were talking about the decay in the system, that our undergraduates no longer have veritable accommodation, or are meant not just to pay for exorbitant prices to gain accommodation off campus, that where these accommodations are provided, some of them are dilapidated. And then one begins to ask, what are we doing about education in Nigeria? Do we place a priority? Do we prioritize education in this nation? And if yes is the answer, we should go beyond this negotiation and see to the implementations of these agreements that has been entered into. When you look at all the ASU is asking for, apart from calling for the welfare of its officers and for the cessation of victimization of their members in certain universities like University of Lagos, Kogi State University, FUTO, that's the Federal University of Technology, Owerri. The rest of them lingers on welfare of the teachers, the funding of our education system. While we commend the Minister of Education for his efforts, Dr. Alausa, in everything he's doing to see that this issue is resolved. But we feel that the approach, allocating 50 billion naira and 150 billion in the next budget cycle, may not be enough to see that the decay in our educational system, as far as the tertiary institution is concerned, may not be enough. So we call on the federal government and ASU to please, one more time, pander for the benefit of the Nigerian students, the future, those whose future of the country rests upon, the leaders of tomorrow. Let's see that they return to classroom and they learn and graduate as at when due. And like we did want to mention on Saturday, that when you look at the crop of leaders that we have, Nigeria has been good to you. Please, reciprocate what you've enjoyed from Nigeria. You all went to school when Nigeria catered for all of you. Some of you went to school when you had meal ticket. But today, the students provide everything for themselves. It's time for you to reminisce and take care of these ones so that Nigeria would begin to hope and pray and enjoy that future that we'll all be longing for as far as education is concerned. And then moving over to the issue of talking about resources, the non-oil exports, local investors losing out of 4.8 trillion boom. Like our guest, Mr. Chris, did mention, this is a homogeneous amount to be left out for the benefit of local investors. Recently, we reviewed that headline where we see that in the extractive industry, mining, that Nigerian investors are not participants to this wholesome business. Look at the extraction of lithium from Nigeria. It's being dominated mainly by the Chinese, and this whole extracts are exported to countries outside Nigeria. And we'll begin to call on federal government now. Let's see to it that there are policies that are favorable that will allow Nigerians the first option of participating in the local non-oil export industries, so that we will benefit, that whatever profit will be domiciled in Nigeria, and not situation where at the end of the day they are these investments, these gains leaves Nigeria and are exported outside the country for the benefit of outsiders. So let's do whatever we can at the National Assembly, at the presidency, at areas of policy formulation to see to it, like other countries do, that Nigerians, very well indigenous companies, participate in this wholesome new emerging non-oil dependent sectors, as it is the mantra of this administration that they want to develop the economy away from oil. And then finally, looking at the issue of criticism, outrage, suspicion, trailing presidential pardon of 175, and our guest indeed has really pointed out the fact that it is the right of the president as conferred on him by section 175 of the 1999 constitution as amended. Yes, the president has the prerogative of mercy, which has been conferred on him by the constitution, and it is his to exercise this very prerogative. And he's not the first president to grant state pardon, as it is the case. Usually on the celebration of independence, we always witness pardoning of state criminals or offenders. But in this case, it was after the state of the council meeting. But why is criticism trailing this? Like our guest has really pointed out, this time around, it beholds on the caliber of individuals that were being pardoned. When you break down the number, you see that 41 illegal miners were pardoned, 28 drug traffickers, 22 murderers were pardoned, including Mary Sanda that he has pointed out for us. When was Mary Sanda commuted to prison for murder? These are the issues that are making front headlines now. Mary Sanda has not spent upwards of 3 to 4 years in detention or in prison after she was sentenced to, I suppose, to death for the crime of murdering her husband. And then one begins to ask, what led the president to grant this state pardon amidst other politicians that have been, and activists that have been pardoned? The issue of Mary Sanda really raises room for concern, and I feel that it is hinged on this fact that a lot of criticism, even from the former vice president, is coming from. The former vice president, Atiku Abubakar, has categorized this state pardon as being reckless and conniving, owing to the fact that drug traffickers were pardoned. And then one is forced to ask, what is the fate of state prosecutors who handle this criminal investigation and prosecution? What happens to them? The judges that convicted these felons, are they safe in the climb, knowing that this individual, this dangerous individual, talking about drug traffickers, murderers, have been pardoned? Then, Mr. President, yes, it's your prerogative, but we would advise that in future you should pander more to judicial advice and the nature of crime and people who are being pardoned. One may think that though some of them have political clout or influence leading to their state pardon. So we would advise that whoever is advising Mr. President on this should look at the image of the country, the image of the president, whenever they are giving such advice. In conclusion, we will once again call on ASU to please negotiate with the federal, listen to the federal government, and the federal government should come to the table sincerely, not just to negotiate, but to see to it that whatever agreement that has been reached is implemented and implemented quickly. Thank you. And that's where we'll call it wraps on today's newspaper review. But do remember that you can grab the physical copies at any newspaper stand near you. And if you have opinion that you want to send across concerning these issues, these reviews, please don't forget to follow us or tag us at Aneke across Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. Or call our phone number on 0703 0431 110. 0703 043 7110. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll take a look at today's celebration. All right. Thank you for staying with us. We are reminded that today is the International Day for Failure, which is usually observed on October 13th. It's a global celebration that encourages people to view failure not as defeat, but as a stepping stone to success. With that said, we'll thank you for remaining with us on the Sunrise today. Until we come your way same time tomorrow, where we'll give you the happenings, news breaks across the country and beyond. Do well to join us at the same time tomorrow. I remain your host, Uche Osai.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obo Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Bishop, whoa.
Enugu is one of the 36 states of Nigerian Federation. It is located on a hilltop in the southern part of the country. It has a rich history and robust cultural heritage that boasts its uniqueness. In Enugu State, Enugu is popularly called the Coal City State because of its large deposits of coal and other mineral resources. Enugu has 17 local government area councils. The history of Enugu dates back to the early 20th century when the British discovered coal in the Udi Hills in 1909, which led to the development of Enugu City in the west system and electric plants greatly during the colonial era. On the 27th of August 1991, Enugu was carved out from Anambra to become a state. As the home of the Igbo people, Enugu's culture reflected in its music, art, and traditions. Enugu is situated in the eastern part of Nigeria, sharing borders with Benue at the north, Ebonyi at the east, Abia and Imo at the south, and Anambra and Kogi at the west, covering approximately 7,161 square kilometers. Enugu is characterized by undulating hills, forests, rivers, and fertile soil, making it suitable for farming. The state experiences significant rainfall with an average annual precipitation of around 2,100 millimeters and temperatures averaging 28 degrees Celsius. The people of Enugu State are predominantly Igbo, one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria. The Igbo language is a fundamental part of their culture and identity, with many dialects spoken across the state. Language plays a vital role in shaping the culture and identity of the Igbo people. Enugu is very rich in culture and traditional practices, one of which is the New Yam Festival, Iriji, which is a traditional celebration that marks the beginning of the harvest season. Another significant cultural event is the Masquerade Festival, Mmong, a colorful display of traditional dances, songs, and drumming. During this festival, different communities come together to showcase their masquerades. Enugu State is also known for its traditional arts including wood carving, pottery, weaving, and music. Enugu's cultural traditions help promote community cohesion, social bonding, and cultural identity. In the past, Enugu's economy was largely driven by coal mining. During the colonial era, Enugu was one of Nigeria's major industrial and economic centers. Today, Enugu's economy has become more diversified with some key sectors which includes agriculture, trade and markets, education and government, tourist centers. Enugu State is an important part of Nigeria, known for its cultural richness, peaceful environment, rich history and tourist attractions. From its coal mining history to its current role as an educational and cultural hub, Enugu continues to grow and contribute greatly to the development of Nigeria.
The soul is part of us that survives every storm. You can't see it, but you can feel it in silence, in longing, in every heartbeat that keeps going. It asks for more than food and fame. It hungers for meaning, for stillness, for the divine. The soul is where music is born, where peace begins, where truth hides. To care for your soul is the greatest act of self-love. For in the end, what we wear fades, but what we are at our core remains.
Stars, moon, rainbow, and rain, heavenly bodies. The night sky reminds us we are part of something vast. Stars guide, the moon soothes, rain renews, and rainbows inspire. Even in darkness, light exists. Look up, there's beauty and wonder above.
Humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is the quiet dignity of those who serve when no one claps and rise when no one cheers. In a world shouting for attention, humility whispers truth. It chooses peace over pride and silence over show. It knows that value isn't in volume and honor isn't always visible. The humble carry unseen power. They lift others without needing a pedestal. And in doing so, they rise higher than ego ever could.
I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chinwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obo Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
de kokoli godo ne no da wonu na bu iya godo ne ke iya no da wonu no goro mo bu ke ke godo ne ke ayi ne ke je godo ne ke bu wa ga si godo bolo pa ma sha bi godo ne ke ti le na ma lo lo ko wo ele yo baba yi wo bu ji be go je ka kala wala gida jo ku bi de ya do lu bula mo le je no ke do wo dulo tokoro iya ma ta mo de mo ku ma tu ma na yi de ni ba ku ku mo so ma la ku ko ta de ni da ma jo
Enugu is one of the 36 states of Nigerian Federation. It is located on a hilltop in the southern part of the country. It has a rich history and robust cultural heritage that boasts its uniqueness. Igbo is a widely spoken language in Enugu State. Enugu is popularly called the Coal City State because of its large deposits of coal and other mineral resources. Enugu has 17 local government area councils. The history of Enugu dates back to the early 20th century when the British discovered coal in the Udi Hills in 1909, which led to the development of Enugu City in 1912 as a thriving mining town. Enugu empowered the Nigeria railway system and electric plants greatly during the colonial era. On the 27th of August 1991, Enugu was carved out from Anambra to become a state. As the home of the Igbo people, Enugu's culture reflected in its music, art, and traditions. Enugu is situated in the eastern part of Nigeria, sharing borders with Benue at the north, Ebonyi at the east, Abia and Imo at the south, and Anambra and Kogi at the west, covering approximately 7,161 square kilometers. Enugu is characterized by undulating hills, forests, rivers, and fertile soil, making it suitable for farming. The state experiences significant rainfall with an average annual precipitation of around 2,100 millimeters and temperatures averaging 28 degrees Celsius. The people of Enugu State are predominantly Igbo, one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria. The Igbo language is a fundamental part of their culture and identity, with many dialects spoken across the state. Language plays a vital role in shaping the culture and identity of the Igbo people. Enugu is very rich in culture and traditional practices, one of which is the New Yam Festival, Iriji, which is a traditional celebration that marks the beginning of the harvest season. Another significant cultural event is the Masquerade Festival, Mmong, a colorful display of traditional dances, songs, and drumming. During this festival, different communities come together to showcase their masquerades. Enugu State is also known for its traditional arts including wood carving, pottery, weaving, and music. Enugu's cultural traditions help promote community cohesion, social bonding, and cultural identity. In the past, Enugu's economy was largely driven by coal mining. During the colonial era, Enugu was one of Nigeria's major industrial and economic centers. Today, Enugu's economy has become more diversified with some key sectors which includes agriculture, trade and markets, education and government, tourist centers. Enugu State is an important part of Nigeria, known for its cultural richness, peaceful environment, rich history and tourist attractions. From its coal mining history to its current role as an educational and cultural hub, Enugu continues to grow and contribute greatly to the development of Nigeria.
The soul is part of us that survives every storm. You can't see it, but you can feel it in silence, in longing, in every heartbeat that keeps going. It asks for more than food and fame. It hungers for meaning, for stillness, for the divine. The soul is where music is born, where peace begins, where truth hides. To care for your soul is the greatest act of self-love. For in the end, what we were fades, but what we are at our core remains.
Welcome to Aneke TV, the heartbeat of culture, truth, and innovation. It's more than a television. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for joining us today on The Insight, where we x-ray the heartbeat of politics, issues that shape and affect our nation. Here on Aneke TV, I am Uche Osai. Today, we'll be taking a closer look on Enugu State, on the developmental efforts of Dr. Peter Mba, the governor of Enugu State. With me to discuss and dissect issue is Dr. Chigozie Anarodo, a developmental scientist and a public affairs analyst. Doc, it's good to have you today.
Yeah, good morning, Uche, and good morning, our viewers.
All right.
It's my pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. So, Doc, let's just get right into it. Today, we're looking at Governor Peter Mbah's developmental efforts. What is your assessment?
Yeah. Well, let me see that the essence of governance is actually to improve the lot of the people. What we have done in constitutional democracy is to hand over our common interests to certain people to manage our interests and run them for our welfare, security, and well-being generally. So to that extent, we have the responsibility of evaluating from time to time those to whom we have handed over our future to see how they are handling it. After 2 years, I do think it is proper to actually evaluate how far the governor of Enugu State, His Excellency, Mr. Peter Mbah, has been handling the affairs of Enugu State. If we look at the fact that comparatively we are coming from the last regime of Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, who say, oh, we have moved from where we used to be. We have improved from where we were standing to a better position. However, if we contextualize the environment properly, we may begin to see that there is a room for improvement. Things could have been done much better than they have been done. You know, so that's my general overview. We can take them in closer details because every pregnancy is a project of its own. You know, in that sense, the present regime has had its own issues, so the regime must be appraised based on the context of the current environment where it operates. We are dealing with an environment where 2023 May, June came with their own challenges of policy changes, policy of subsidy removal, policy of naira devaluation, then afterwards the policy of removal of subsidy on electricity and so on and so forth. So and people had expected, and government confirmed so too, that more money had become available to government. So, to the extent that more money had become available to government, we must evaluate the activities of government side by side with the funds that have been available to government and see whether if these funds have been judiciously utilized, the projects that have been carried out, the impact of those projects on the badly affected people of Nigeria, because the policy I mentioned earlier actually threw the economy into a kind of initial crisis. People lost their power of purchase. People had to spend more money to get energy, whether it is energy for transportation or energy for keeping the household and businesses running in terms of electricity. And the values of the little money they had been taken away. And what has happened was that, and it is still that, money has been taken away from the people and given more to the government. The question becomes, what has the government done with the monies that are available, and where are the people in the equation that has been created?
All right, Doc. You said we are no longer where we used to be.
I agree. Yeah, I said so.
Right. Now let's bring it home. Let's look at specific projects.
Okay.
Starting with recently the commissioning of buses, the commissioning of bus terminal. What's your assessment of this project and its impact on the people of the Enugu State?
Thank you, Uche. Two issues are involved: the bus terminals and the buses.
Yes.
Honestly, I think the bus terminal is not a people impactful project.
Why do you say that, Doc?
Yeah, I'm coming. When I say, I will explain. Well, and with due respect to the intent of government, a lot of persons have said that the terminals, oh, they are beautiful, they are nice. But let's look at the cost of the bus terminal. And when I say costs, I'm not talking about financial cost now, because we do not even have information. I'm coming to the I'll get to the transparency of running governance in this regime. That's a different discourse. I'm not talking about the cost on the people. Remember, those places where the bus terminals were constructed were crowded places before now. And human beings, people of Enugu State, residents of Enugu State, were the people plying businesses, finding their source of livelihood in those places. Suddenly, there was need for government to construct those terminals, or so said the government. And what happened was that demolitions happened, people were displaced, and government did not make any provision to assimilate, relocate, and cushion the impact of this dislocation of the people. Uche, there's a place called Gariki. Government agencies were still collecting revenues a few days to the demolition of the Gariki area. And eventually, government, having the powers to do what they did, went in and demolished the area without making provision of where those people displaced there will be assimilated into, so that they will continue to eke out living. And like I said in the beginning, what we have done in constitutional democracy is to carry our common interest and transfer to individuals to take care of them. And now the welfare of those people were at stake. I would have expected that government would have brought human face to this project by making provision for a place to relocate these people who were doing businesses in those areas. If an alternative places were constructed and those people were asked to move to those places because government needed to do a renewal, build what is termed modern bus terminals on those areas, that would have reduced the impact of this shock relocation on those people. The same thing happened at the Holy Ghost area. The same thing happened at the Nsukka area, which I am disappointed to hear the agents of government saying that currently those who were displaced at Ogige Nsukka, Ogige Market, that's what it is, will be accommodated after the construction of 5,000 shops at the Nsukka International Market.
Yes.
That is just about the construction is just about to start. Which one should, between the chicken and the egg, which one should come first? Constructing that alternative market before the demolition of the existing market, which one would have been first? If the interests of the people were to be put first, which is what democracy should be. Because the people are the employers. When the time for election comes, they go around begging the people for votes. Try to persuade them. Now the people have handed power to our leaders. Our leaders are now, sending down orders on us. I would have expected that government would have been more responsible by constructing that market, the alternative market, relocating those people who were, giving them time to move in. If government constructed alternative market and allocated shops to those who had the shops at the existing market, and if you're giving time to relocate and you don't relocate, then you probably are looking for trouble. I do not know any plan, or relocating the people who are at the Holy Ghost market. I have not heard any about the people who are displaced at a Gariki market area. So to that extent, it will shock you to realize that a lot more people have been taken into poverty by that singular project. That's what I mean by the cost of the project. We live in a society where there is no social security. If you are sick, you need to struggle to provide your health care out of pocket. If you're going to school, your children have to go to school, you need to provide a cost of education out of pocket. Because there could be free basic education, but the cost, there are other costs to it. People don't get free uniform, they don't get free books, they don't find themselves to school freely, and so on and so forth. So people pay. In era where electricity supply is very erratic, people provide power to them. So I'm sure that in this facility you provide their power to get things run. So in that circumstance, people were literally aching out living. And they were finding their source of livelihood through those things that they were doing in those places. And if government is for the people, you probably would have done a baseline assessment. How many people are here? If you displace these people, where are we going to put them? If you put them here, what will be the social impact of this displacement or this location? If we put it side by side by the impacts of the new project, we'll probably see that given the net effect, because we have provided a shock absorber, relocated these people, brought a new project, given the net effect of the dislocation and the import of the new project, you probably see that the positive of the new project will overshadow the net impact that remains. But we're in a situation where we see government that probably gives us shock therapy and begin to think as an afterthought of a way to now manage the social problem that would have emanated from there. You can't count how many people may have lost, because they have lost the source of their livelihood, they're not able to maintain their health care. Probably, ultimately, they would have lost their lives. People would have lost their source of livelihood. People would have gone into one crime or the other. So to that extent, it comes at huge cost. And by the way, Uche, does a state government have a business in constructing bus terminals? That's a question that not many people have asked. By the way the governance is run, there are certain businesses that should belong to the federal government. There are certain businesses that the state government should focus on. There are certain businesses that local government should focus on. We could talk about exclusive reserve, concurrent reserve, then residual reserve. I'm hearing recently that I hear that federal government wants to devote 142 billion naira to constructing bus terminals in different geopolitical regions of the country. And I said that's madness.
Perhaps the impact from Enugu State is so attractive that the federal had to replicate the same.
Well, I'll leave you in the delusion of that opinion, because Enugu State is not the first state to have constructed bus terminal. Hold on. You are talking about Enugu State leading the federal government. Lagos State had constructed a bus terminal. If you go to Oshodi bus terminal, which was beautiful when it was constructed, it's not a hideout for criminals. The Federal Capital Authority constructed bus terminals. Yes. What has become of the bus terminals? Let me let you know that if you go to countries that are developed, airports are constructed and owned by local governments. the duties and responsibilities of local governments have been eroded by state governments. That's why I think it's a misplacement of priority in the first instance to have even gone into bus terminal construction.
All right, Doc. There are still some analysts who are of the view that these terminals and the buses have provided employment for the people, thereby helping to improve the economy.
Oh, that's a good argument. But let's place the argument side by side what I have said and with empirical facts that we can bring up into the analysis. It is understood when somebody flashes on the surface and says, oh, he has provided employment. Uche, how many people are employed by one bus? If you have a driver, if you have a helps man, a woman, what they call conductor, if there is one, you probably have a technician that helps in repairing the bus and probably ticket issuers. How many people, by the number of buses that have been employed and that have been acquired? The terminals that have been built, how many people are employed in each terminal? Put them side by side with the number of persons who are in the informal sector that have been displaced in the course of construction of the terminals. Let me remind you that statistics have shown that 60% of Nigerian economy runs on the informal sector. In fact, the informal subsistence sector actually holds the economy of Nigeria and most of the economies of the developing countries. Go to Southeast Asia and see what informal sector is doing there. So, how many people have been displaced who are in the informal sector, who have been displaced by the construction, and how many people have been employed? Because it is misleading for people to say, oh, people have been employed because they have a formal job, forgetting that those who work in the informal sector may even make more income per capita, thereby improving on the quality of life they live by the activities they do. I have had case to mentor and talk to artisans. By the time we got down to the nitty-gritties, an artisan would have realized that he or she is able to make about 300,000, 400,000 in a month. The only problem they have is that they are not able to probably save the money and put it into better use. But you see a senior civil servant who actually earns less than 200,000 naira in a month, being regarded as a big man or big woman, probably sometimes being chauffeured in official vehicles, and they say this, oh, this person is employed, probably because those people help themselves with corrupt practices. Otherwise, a very big impact is created in our economy by the informal sector. So when you displace people who are operating in the informal sector, you are creating a huge economic dislocation in the economy, thereby worsening the lot of the people when it comes to poverty index measurement. So in as much as it may sound apparently reasonable for people to jump out and say, oh, jobs have been created. Uche, I do not say that it is good to have a 21st century rickety buses running on our roads. But if you count those who are operating those rickety vehicles, they are more in number than you can actually create a job with this. That's all to say that city modernization should be taken out of the table completely. I hope you get my point. My point is that strategy must be brought into the things we do, and we must make provisions for taking care of people to be displaced from urban renewal projects, so that we don't displace people and begin to grapple with the after effects of the displacement. And that's the kind of thing we see in the federal government project, where federal government, remove subsidy, would start having made plans to take care of the people, knowing the expected negative impact of subsidy removal. And people go to town and say, oh, it was good to remove subsidy. Nobody is saying that it was not good to remove subsidy. So they are missing the point. The point we are making is that you need to plan on how to cushion the effect before you bring in the action.
All right, hold the thoughts, Doc. Viewers, thank you for staying with us. We'll go on a short break and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Aneke TV, the heartbeat of culture, truth, and innovation. From breaking news to inspiring documentaries, from grassroots traditions, mysteries of life to global perspectives, we'll tell your stories. We amplify your voice and your vision. With every screen we light up, we connect, inform, and empower. It's more than a television. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
All right, thank you, viewers, for still staying with us. We're discussing with Dr. Chigozie Anarodo, a developmental scientist and public affairs analyst. We are looking into Enugu State, the developmental strides of Dr. Peter Mba. Doctor,
Yes.
he said the essence of governance is to prove the lot of the people.
Absolutely.
Good. Let's look at the recent commissioning or re-unveiling of Hotel Presidential. What's your view on that project as well?
I think it's a good one.
All right.
I think it's a good one, given the fact that these are assets that are, that were left moribund, wasting as it were. So for the fact that it was renovated and re-unveiled, I think it was a good one. So you need to understand that we don't really stand out to throw away everything our government has done. We must look at the ones that are low-hanging fruit that need to be done. That's why I talk about strategy every time. So the Hotel Presidential was already there, lying on the expanse of land that it occupies, and having been left to lie idle for all these years, amounted to loss to the Enugu State government and the Enugu State people. So it was a commendable thing that the government revamped and renovated the Hotel Presidential. So also the International Conference Center that was allowed to lie fallow for years, in the middle of construction. Having completed it and brought it to life, it has added to the life of Enugu City. I mean, the ongoing conference of the Nigerian Bar Association is a testimony to that. So those are projects that government that we can see that, look, it was good that government went into it, but the point must not be taken away. Uche, these projects may not be high impactful projects directly, but because they were low hanging fruits, they were easy to be plucked. The International Conference Center had been constructed to an advanced level and abandoned for years. It was good that government completed it and made it functional. And I can assure you that probably it will attract a number of persons that come into Enugu for conference, and these conferences will impact, and meetings will impact on the businesses of the people operating in the informal sector. And so is also the Hotel Presidential that provides accommodation for ecotourism in the state. But this should not remove the fact that government must pay attention to the high impacting projects that would actually change the lives of the people faster than these projects. And by the way, they are not mutually exclusive. What do I mean? The fact that Hotel Presidential was renovated, the fact that International Conference Center was completed, should not mean that other projects should not come on. So in direct answer to your question, it was a good move to have renovated the Hotel Presidential. It was a good move to have completed the International Conference Center. But the point that I still make is that these projects are not necessarily high impact projects when it comes to, because you talk about the masses.
Yes.
There are in the population distribution of any state, greater number of persons are found in the rural areas than are in the urban areas. That's why when government concentrate on beautifying the city, good as it may look, at the end of the day, it doesn't actually add to increasing the GDP of the state and taking away poverty, as it were, as quickly as government
But Doc, this will
have hoped.
increase the internally generated revenue.
Uche, that's the problem I have. Just put it on the side that I have said that it was not a bad thing.
Yes.
Rather, it was a good thing.
Yes.
Oftentimes, I've had to speak with government agents and operators of government, and I hear them mix up internally generated revenue with GDP. They are not the same thing. It's more important that for the government that economic activity goes on and increases in the state. Grounded economic activities. That is when you can measure the gross domestic product of the state. And mind you, if you have a good spread of economic activities and gross domestic product increases, it directly impacts on income per capita. That is to say, you, Onye Enugu, Ndi Enugu, will now have more money in their pockets. That's when income per capita increases. And if you have more money in your pocket per annum, what it means and translates to literally is that you can improve the quality of life you live. You can afford to go to hospital. You can afford good shelter. You can afford good clothing, and you can afford healthy food. And these are the essence and pillars of good livelihood. And that is when you feel actually that government has impacted greatly on you. I have seen cities in Europe that don't necessarily look magnificent, but you realize that the people who live in those cities are happy. They are comfortable. The HDI, Human Development Indices, are high. The quality of life they live are high because the per capita income that they have access to is very high. Some countries are living with per capital income of $15,000 per person per year on the average. Some are living with $10,000, some $6,000. But the per capita income around this area is less than 800 naira. So if you have $800, sorry. If you have per capita income less than $800, when in other parts of the world you have per capita income about $15,000, you can now appreciate the Japa syndrome. And so you must put development and economic growth in proper perspectives. Otherwise, we may end up beautifying cities. And I criticize some governments in the past for just trying to beautify cities, put street lights, and there without actually catalyzing economic development and growth. And so, government might take, in fact, geometrically increase the internal generated revenue for all you care, without seeing a proportionate improvement on the quality of life of the people. And if that happens, then you have not done well in economic development.
All right, Doc, moving forward, there are people who are of the view that these projects, though commendable, are elitist and not for the masses.
Well, Uche, I will not explicitly say that they are elitists. because the economy is interwoven. For example, if you have people selling food in small cafeteria around, and there is a big conference that attracts up to 5,000 people into a city. People are lodged in hotels. Almost always they go out of the hotels to find their food. They want to eat local delicacies of the people. You see that those who operate the cafeterias and the restaurants are making good sales, and they will go to the market to buy from the farmers who have produced these farm products, and that actually improves the economy of the people. So I wouldn't say completely, so otherwise it would be pessimism, complete pessimism to say that, for example, the International Conference Center is totally elitist, or the Hotel Presidential is totally elitist. Like I said, these are assets of the state, built originally with our money. If they are left to rot away, our money is being wasted there. The only caveat I bring in is that when government renovate this, they must concession those to good managers so that we don't go back to where we're coming from. The point I make is that if government is in a hurry to actually take people out of poverty, there must be some other projects that have high impact factor on the people than this one, without my necessarily outrightly calling them elitists. For example, I have criticized the Enugu Air project that it's a waste of public fund. Good as it must sound that Enugu has an airline, it's a waste of public fund. If a government has put in 62 billion naira, as they told us, because I mean, transparency is part of an issue in this government. As I said, I was going to come to that.
Yes.
So, democracy, constitutional democracy requires public participation. We should be able to go to government websites and find the cost of completing the International Conference Center, and see whether the cost is commensurate with the work has been done, because the work belongs to us. Yes. We should find the cost of renovating the Hotel Presidential and see whether the cost is commensurate with the work has been done, or it has become a tunnel for funneling away public funds, because the money is ours. But we can't say these things. I have confronted government officials, and when you ask them, so we don't know, maybe we'll ask the Commissioner for Finance. This transparency demands that, I mean, issue, this job should be done by public bidding, and if they are bidded for, the cost of executing the project should be put on the table for everybody to see, and to see whether it is actually judicious use of public funds. I talked about the money available to government being increased, yes, and the need for judicious use of those monies. So that's that's where I call out this government to actually be more transparent in letting the people see the financial cost of doing projects, whether they are the bus terminals, whether they are the conference centers, whether they are the Enugu Air. But I criticize Enugu Air because I didn't see a business case in the state government putting fund in floating a fresh airline, where the existing private sector airlines are not able to maximize their capacities. If you listen recently, you hear that Nigeria has signed a bilateral air service agreement with Brazil. APIS, so that APIS can fly directly to Brazil. Yeah. That's capacity that APIS is looking to maximize. If you have flown into Enugu using the existing airlines, you will discover that almost always the aircraft are not filled to capacity. So what was the business case? Was Enugu such a place that you didn't find aircraft and airlines going to Enugu? So if Enugu becomes a lucrative route by catalyzing economic activities in the Enugu state, you will see that ordinarily private investors will put in more airlines into Enugu, rather than, because we know government is a bad business manager. So I didn't see, in fact, that 62 billion, you can imagine if it had been taken, converted into constructing light rails between the cities of Enugu, the impact it would have had on the people. That's when I talk about high impact projects. If you have a rail line that moves from Nsukka, light rail that moves from Nsukka to Enugu, and is able to do Enugu-Nsukka route 3 or 4 times a day, you can imagine, because Nsukka is a university town, you can imagine the mobility that it will create between Enugu and Nsukka. If you have a light rail that moves between Enugu and Oji, Enugu and maybe somewhere around Uboka, where you have some institutions springing up, you have increased the mobility of the people, and people can easily move. People who are stranded in cities without proper accommodation can find accommodation in areas that are not crowded into the cities, and they can easily find their way into their places of livelihood every day. And you will see that per capita income of the people will increase, and those projects are projects that can easily recover their cost of construction. So those are the kind of things. But almost always, Uche, what you find is that government wants to scorch a political point for purposes of campaign. When campaign comes, you see government say, oh, we have floated Enugu airline, without actually asking the cost of 62 billion naira that was that we were told that was used for the airline. Was that the best way to use such amount of money in this present circumstance to actually take the people out of poverty? Some government official told me that it will create employment, and I laughed. That's it doesn't make sense, because we know that the number of employment it will create will be a child's play to compare with having light rails running around the Enugu city and the kind of direct and indirect employment that those ones would have created. So you go to the government of Enugu started water project. That water project is stalled as far as I'm concerned now, because the governor promised us that in 180 days that he was going to send water to every home. I'm quoting him now, quote unquote, every home in Enugu.
And you think that project has failed?
What do you call failure? How many days do we have now? I don't want to sound like an opposition party, no. In development, we tie down projects to timelines. 2 years and some months have passed. We cannot say that we have made measurable progress in that project. Remember, the governor said 180 days. I actually called out the governor then and said that was unattainable. I totally said it was unattainable because there was no baseline studies.
Right.
The state of pipes were not known. I knew that engineering regulation needed to be done in new settlements in Enugu. Even the old settlements needed to be rehabilitated. When I spoke to government officials, they said they had their plans. I told them that you had set up yourselves for failure. Sooner than later, I told the Commissioner for Information then that water gallery was a 19th century thing that we saw in Asia. That if you look at the impact of creating water galleries, we are falling back to people losing man hours in trying to find water. And these things were not sustainable. He insisted they were sustainable. Sooner than later, within days, those galleries were vandalized. And today, I don't know anyone that functions. I don't know any of the water galleries that functions. And if you do the statistics, you will find out that more than 60% of Enugu people who live in Enugu city, do not have access to potable water. As you slowly get into the dry season, it will come to you will face the reality. Most of us live and use unwholesome water for our daily activities. You see shallow wells everywhere. And I thought that was what the governor saw and said, well, Enugu people deserve potable water. But how they have handled that leaves a lot to be desired. So to that extent, if that project had actually been advanced as much as it should, it would have been a high impactful project. Because water is key to whether it is health, whether it's sanitation, whether it is environment, and the well-being of the people to be in a position. Because if you have a healthy population, you have a productive population.
All right, Doc. Talking about high impactful projects.
Yes.
Let's look at education.
Okay.
The Smart School Initiative.
Okay.
What's your assessment?
On the surface, Uche, the smart school looks good. On the surface. But that's why I usually talk about strategy. And open governance requires that when government has a dream, if it brings it to a plan, and if it has a plan, it should create strategy or strategies for those plans. And they should be brought to public domain for proper criticism to help government achieve the desired goals. The smart school, like I said, on paper, looked very good. But the question I had asked myself in the first day I heard about it was, looking at the pathway that the smart school project wanted to take, was it better to start completely to construct new schools, or was it faster and cheaper to massively move into existing schools, renovate them and convert them to smart schools? Some of the government people argue that government wanted to a new paradigm. But politics came into it, like everything we do. In some communities, the smart schools are located far away from the people that will use them. Sometimes you see two smart school projects located probably too close to each other, while other communities are actually disenfranchised, as it were, as when the project has come on. So now it's a huge, it's a capital intensive project, as it were now. Apart from the pilot project that was done in our, I do not know of anyone that has taken off. We're heading to commencement of new school year. I honestly think that if the kind of amount of money that's being speculated, because nobody is telling you, nobody is giving you the facts. I talked about transparency. The amount of money that is being speculated to have been sunk into the smart school. I mean, it's a beautiful dream to actually invest in education. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful dream. The amount of money that has been put there, if the monies have been sunk into renovating and converting the existing school structures into smart schools, would we not make better projects? The way these things are sited and located, what are the chances of sustainability? Then I have a bigger concern, the way it's being mouthed. Uche, every institution stands on 3 legs, principal legs. There could be other legs. The infrastructure, the legal framework, then the human resources. The teachers that are going to man the smart school, are they going to come from the moon? Government says we are training them. I say it's beyond just training them. Part of the problem, the education problem we have in Nigeria today, is poor remuneration. And as such, the educational system does not attract the best of the human resources to get into that sector. Time was that you went to primary school, you saw young men, young women who are top of their classes getting into teaching profession because they were properly remunerated. As it is now, if you go to an average primary and secondary school, you will see that you have 90% women population. I mean, due respect to the women, I mean, they are not less important. but sociologically putting it, you see that the men are scared of getting into that, because in the cultural environment where we live in, a man has huge responsibility. You have to grow up, make enough money, marry a wife that you will take care of, as it were. Social responsibilities that are facing you, you know. So you discover that in the university sector now, if you see people graduating from education, those who have made first class and second class upper find their way elsewhere. They don't want to go to the basic education sector because the remuneration is very poor. Is government going to increase significantly the remuneration and support for the teachers that are going to teach in smart school? Otherwise, it will be a rat race.
All right. If you're just joining us, we are discussing today on the insight, the impact of Dr. Peter Mba's developmental efforts in Enugu State, the benefits to Ndi Enugu. And with me here is Dr. Chigozie Anarodo, a developmental scientist and a public affairs analyst. Doc,
Yes,
we've been looking at these projects. Now let's take a look at security, which is fundamental for development to take place. Doctor, what's your assessment of the governor's effort in security?
Yeah, thank you, Che. I think I applaud the governor, especially on the first steps he made at the early days of his government. You see, a lot of people came out to criticize me, especially those who are emotional, who that he shouldn't have put in all the energy in stopping the sit-at-home on Monday. I said no. A situation where the Southeast was losing close to 40 billion every Monday, you know, was totally unacceptable. And there was no way a government that is what is sought will surrender the sovereignty of the, or as it were, surrender the powers that the people have entrusted onto that government to non-state actors, to fear, and to lack of economic activity. And I totally commend this government for actually taking the bull by the horn by confronting the issue of loss of productivity on Monday in the name of sit-at-home. To that extent, I mean, it was a good thing to make the effort to recover Monday, but you can also see that sustainability has become an issue in terms of allowing it to spread into other areas of the state. You still have issues with the hinterlands of Enugu, people having the capacity to move around and do their business in the hinterland. So I actually hope that government should do more by permeating the hinterlands to recover the place so that there shouldn't be ungoverned spaces in our environment.
All right, Doc. Before I take you to politics, the issue of politics, on a scale of 1 to 10, when compared to the previous administrations, what's your rating of this government?
Is it in terms of in the total rating?
Total rating, when compared to the previous government, a scale of 1 to 10. Don't think about it, Doc. Just from a scale of 1 to 10, what's your assessment? You've been a resident of this state.
Yes, for more than 30 years.
When compared to previous administrations, when looked holistically, from a scale of 1 to 10, what's your rating?
Okay, that's an easy thing to do. On the scale of 1 to 10, compared to the last administration, I will place this government on 6.
All right.
For 10.
Only 6?
That's my assessment. I am a teacher.
Good, but the previous administration, you didn't give a pass mark either.
No, so we are putting on a, see, when you say a scale relative to the previous administration, like I told you, my job is teaching. What it means is that the previous administration takes the base value of 0.
All right.
Do you understand?
All right.
So now this one scales up to 6.
So your final score is 6.
Well, I'm not prevaricating about it.
All right.
The point I want to make, however, is that it's not enough to do that comparative score.
Okay.
it's important to do absolute score.
Okay.
Because the previous administration, truth must be said, we run a porridge economy where we depend on the allocation of the federation to run. The previous administration ran in the era when oil revenue was very low. The monies accruable to the federation account was much lower. A situation where the federation was distributing a total of about 600 billion per month. That's the regime we move from, and we're in the regime where the federation is currently distributing 2 trillion in a month. Are you able to place them side by side? That's why I talk about context. It may be shallow-minded for us to say, oh, let's just compare. You move from 600 to those, more than 3 folds. So we must expect such quantum leap in the type of developmental impacts and efforts that we see. So that's why I said, I mean, I can't argue with you because you are the moderator here. You wanted a comparative scale. That I gave to you. We can do an absolute scale.
All right, Doc.
And my absolute scale can come down to 4.
All right, Doc. We're in era of endorsements. We're in era of endorsements.
Absolutely.
And based on the efforts of this government, we've heard when he went to commission the projects in the Soka, we heard the people endorsing him for another term in office, though we are still in 2 years. And given the crisis in the PDP, do you think it's possible for this governor to run under that platform? And if not, should he want to decamp from the PDP, as we've seen others do? Do you think there is a headway for him in the APC?
Well, I'm not a politician.
Right.
So I may not know exactly the intricacies of the internal working of the political parties. But my analysis is based on what we know and what we're able to dig out from where we stand. There's a huge crisis in PDP.
Right.
And the developments we have seen in PDP may have pitched the governor on one side of the PDP crisis, while the likes of Yeson Wike are on the other side of the PDP crisis. How the PDP as a political party is able to navigate that crisis before 2026, because you were saying we're just 2 years in. The truth of the matter is that campaign for primaries will start. In fact, the campaigns for primaries have shortly started.
Yes.
Forget the endorsement you are seeing are business of politically minded people. I mean, they do that business in every cycle. Some of them make money from the businesses. So by early 2026, because by Aneke guidelines, by middle 2026, the parties would have known their candidates. The candidates would have been submitted to the INEC, because you need enough time for campaign before the election, according to the new INEC regulations. So by the time we get to 2026, you see that political activities will increase. Those who are interested in political offices will want to get off with the campaign and get the people to support them. So 1 week is a lot of time in politics. For example, the NEC of PDP couldn't hold for some time, but between the 100 NEC and the 101 NEC, we have seen that PDP was able to hold NEC meetings. There are forces that are still pulling. Now we see the Makinde group, yes, and the Yeson Wike group. Whether they are able to come together now to form a one PDP is difficult to say exactly. Because Wike had said it without equivocation that he was going to support President Bola Tinubu of the APC in 2027. and that as far as he was concerned, the PDP was not going to field the presidential candidate. But PDP has won the presidency now to the south. So the dynamics are changing with speed.
All right.
How they turn out, we may not be able to say exactly. Because if things remain the way they are, or at least we saw them last week, it may be difficult for the governor to say, oh, we'll pick a ticket in PDP. But things can change, and those who are the lower layer can come up to the upper layer and overtake those who are in the upper layer. But if it happens that he doesn't find a headway in PDP, the APC may not be so much of an option for him. Given the emotions of the people of the Southeast, if the votes of the people would count, our people have their feelings about APC. They are not eager to vote for APC.
All right.
So it may even be better. It may even be better for him to actually go the direction of ADC, assuming the PDP is not an option. But like I said, the flux is moving very fast. The dynamics are changing very fast. The equilibrium will continue to move until it settles somewhere. And by the early part of 2026, in fact, after the convention of PDP in November, the situation will become a lot clearer of what the future holds for the political players in Nigeria.
All right, Doc. On that note, we'll draw the curtain on today's edition of The Insight. You've heard from an expert analyst, Dr. Chigozie Anarado. Now, it's time to hear from you, our viewers. Remember, on The Insight, your voice matters. Reach us on Aneke TV on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. Let us know what you think about these issues, how they affect you, or the issues that you think we should bring up in our next edition. And we'll call on the government to send your commissioner for information to educate the people more on the benefits of your projects, what they stand to gain. And then, as a counter to the expert of opinion of the analyst. And Dr. Chigozie Anarado, it's wonderful speaking to you again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Uche. It's been a pleasure being here, and we can't do without the viewers. Viewers, we are proud of you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Aneke TV, the heartbeat of culture, truth, and innovation. It's more than a television. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Stars, moon, rainbow, and rain, heavenly bodies. The night sky reminds us we are part of something vast. Stars guide, the moon soothes, rain renews, and rainbows inspire. Even in darkness, light exists. Look up, there's beauty and wonder above.
Humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is the quiet dignity of those who serve when no one claps and rise when no one cheers. In a world shouting for attention, humility whispers truth. It chooses peace over pride and silence over show. It knows that value isn't in volume and honor isn't always visible. The humble carry unseen power. They lift others without needing a pedestal. And in doing so, they rise higher than ego ever could.
There are questions the world are yet to answer. Truths buried in time, echoed in tradition, and hidden in the stars. From the rituals of the ancients to the secrets of the atom, From the patterns in nature to the power of thought, Mysteries of Life takes you on a journey through the unknown, exploring the mystical, the philosophical, the traditional, and the scientific. What connects them all? What lies beneath the surface of what we know? Join us on Aneke TV as we uncover the secret layers and unlock the unseen. This is Mysteries of Life, where every truth begins with a question.
Welcome to our program, viewer, our program, Mysteries of Life. Today we are going to look at graven images. It's one of those critical issues that we meet every now and then as a point of sometimes conflict, sometimes divergence, sometimes disagreement, whatever it is, between people of faith of one form or the other. In fact, we got to the point where we have people who don't even want to respect the national flag. We don't need to name the group. But we are not even talking, we're talking of graven images, because it's one of those things that we have been taught from our infancy about what people should avoid. Particularly when people refer to what we call the second of the 10 commandments, that you must avoid them. And with me in the studio to look into this particular issue, we have a very senior Catholic priest, Reverend Father Benjamin Achi, not just a lecturer, the former director of the Catholic Communications Commission, Enugu Diocese. Reverend Achi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, moderator. Thanks for having me.
And by him, we have our regular discussant here, Mazi Anichukwu Gabriel Mecca. You know, I always like calling him like that because if you don't bring the Gabriel there, you will not think he's a Christian, but he is Gabriel, and because of that, I always like to go like that. He's a peace and conflict consultant.
Audience, come close and learn deep things about his life.
Yeah, we wish to, Father, commence with you. You know, is it possible for us to worship in a void?
Okay, well,
you know, for us to have an altar in a void.
Okay, well, thank you very much, moderator. I think that's a very fundamental question to ask when a conversation like this comes to the table. Yes, is this really something possible to have, you know, in a void? Well, we know that is not even very practicable because it is only God himself, the creator, who created ex nihilo, like we say it. It was only God who created out of nothing. The account of God of the creation, the first account of creation we have in Genesis said, I mean, the world was without void, with nothing, until God spoke the first word, let there be light. And every other thing we followed. We know all the details of the creation account. So it's only God that created out of nothing, and apart from that, no other person. It's only the omnipotent God who has the power to do that. Okay. But every other thing, like the things we experience, the things we have now, only proceed from the things already put in place by God. Okay. That was why the ancient Greek philosopher called Aristotle made that very popular epistemological statement. I'll say it the way he said it in Latin. Nihil est in intellectu, quod non prius in sensu. Okay. There is nothing in the intellect that was not first in the senses. Okay. So the sense is important. You know, empirical philosophers, you know, empiricists are the people who place premium on the senses and what the senses, sensory perception. You know, the position of Aristotle is that whatever it is that we can actually conceive now, even in our minds, we already picture that in our senses. So the images we have today, there are some images made of things we have not seen. Like when you look at this little book of Bible stories for children, you see the image of God painted there. That is the image that is in people's mind, in their senses. So they now brought it forth. The way I'm thinking about this is what I picture God to look like. Yeah, this is what I picture God, and that's what they eventually should produce. So it is not really possible to worship in a void. You can't have an altar in a void, just to use the exact words.
Okay, Master
Your exact
Namaka,
words.
Master Namaka Adechubu, now that you know, to help us solve this conflict, is it possible to have an altar in a void?
It is not possible to have an altar in a void. Because nature abhors vacuum even. Nature is avoids vacuum. That's why even in Christian religion or any other religion, whenever you say you are converted and you don't stick to the source of your conversion, and that spirit will come in and take the abode. So there's no way. If you do any worship on altar in a void, then to whom do you erect the altar? For whom?
No, in that void, there's no altar at all.
There's no way an altar can exist in a void, because altar is created as to function, not in a vacuum, not in voidity, but in practicality. And in practicality, there must be a force.
Okay.
That will be the substructure for it to function.
So I want to. I'm using it as a point of.
So it's not possible.
No, to have an altar in a void.
It's not possible.
Okay, fine. So let me continue with you before I get back to Father. Now that it's not possible, and we're discussing here graven images, and Father has brought about this issue of Aristotle, that there's nothing that is on the ground. That we talk about imagination without talking about what is already on the ground, something like that. Has been. There, it must have been somewhere. Yeah. Without it, otherwise. So I don't want us to go back to images. So let us now, or imagination. Let me not go to that one now, because he has virtually taken it up. Yeah. So we are not going to Iyakubo. And there's always this problem with the other churches against the Catholic Church, that the Catholic people are worshipping Iyakubo, and it's against the second commandment. What do you think about that?
They are not even against. They even tag the traditional religionists.
No, I don't want to go to traditional because we are going to come up with that.
Okay.
What is
so
good?
The thing is that the Vatican Council, Second Vatican Council, says that in every culture there are certain truths in every culture, and the Catholic institution, the Church, Catholic Church, extracts the good and holy things existing in those cultures, which they can acculturate for the worship of God Almighty. So then when you talk of sculpture, all these graven images, I don't think that it is a sin before God. It should be accepted, because these are symbolism. They are symbolic in worship. Those things, I don't think that those things they are being worshipped, but they are channels having symbolic representations of the Almighty God or the servants of God.
Because of the way you have moved now, I will go back to Father now before I come back to you. Because last time, if you remember, somebody made a point that those worshipping, using all those Yoruba, that they are worshipping demons. But that's by the way. So Father, because people feel that in the Catholic Church, that if you have a statue of Blessed Virgin Mary, or our Lord Jesus Christ, or Saint Joseph, or Saint Jude, or Saint Gabriel, the Archangel, or Benjamin, even though Benjamin is a patriarch, but we don't have him as a saint. Yeah. Is there any Saint Benjamin?
Yeah, Benjamin was a Roman deacon, actually.
Okay. So Benjamin we know is a patriarch.
Yes, exactly.
Benjamin we know is a patriarch.
Yeah.
Now, so this issue of images, because I am looking at the very first person that did the Yogbo is God.
Correct. The second account of creation in Genesis made it very clear.
The very first person.
Yes,
So I wanted to move from there to talk to the people, because the first person that did the help is God, because God is person. They said the person turn Chukwu. And so God is a person. So the very first person that did Ihokbo is God himself. So maybe remind the viewer and then maybe enter into it.
Thank you very much once again, moderator, for this. You are right in your submission a moment ago that God was the very first person to, to do some crafting, because there are two accounts of creation in Genesis. We are all Christians, and we are very conversant with the Torah. There are two accounts. Genesis chapter 1 was where God made everything by oral pronouncements. Then in the second account of creation we found in Genesis chapter 2, we were told that God, after, eventually after having created things, now decided to make man his own graven image. Every translation of the Bible has that word, that let us make man in our own image and likeness. There is no translation of the scriptures that will not give you that word. That's number one. And when God wanted to do that, what did he do? From what he had already created by his oral pronouncements, he decided to make an image which he eventually breathed into, and that became a human being. And when he wanted to give man a helper, what did he do? God went a step further. Took something from the same man he has made, from the same image he has made of himself, to create another one that will be a helper to the man. So your submission is spot on, that God was the very first person to begin the business of creating images.
Okay.
You understand? So you're right. So you're right in that. So I'm coming to that. Now, God established this, and then we continue with that. You see, it beats me hollow when people are presenting this as an object of controversy, because it shouldn't actually be. This word, worship, is a very strong word, and people should be careful how they use it. You see, when you make an image, just like my brother rightly stated, images are representatives of something. They serve as a reminder to us of something. We know what images are. Photographs are images. And all of those, they are symbolic. That thing that is an image is not the real thing, but it reminds us of the real thing. So that is actually what it is. So when you make images that reminds you of something, like when we make holy images, for example, that puts you in the position of, gives you a disposition of prayer, it is reminding you of the real being that you are worshiping, and not necessarily that thing that is there. That's it. Yes, they are holy objects because they are reminding us of holy things, of holy people, of God himself, who is all holy. But it doesn't necessarily mean that these things, are anything in themselves. They are not the beings in themselves. They are only representatives of they are only as symbols and representatives of the real thing that is out there. So this is exactly what it is, and that is why we shouldn't even use the word worship at all, because no sensible person will even worship images. It doesn't even make any sense. It sounds preposterous that somebody will make something that is inanimate and begin to worship. It doesn't even make any sense, and that is why we feel that. You see, even in African traditional religion, adherents of African traditional religion are not really worshiping the Ofo or the Ikenga and all of that. They believe in the Chiuku that is somewhere else. Those things are only representatives of the Chi that they know. That's it. So that thing they are looking at is not even the Chi, but they will quarrel with you if you destroy it, because you are destroying what is reminding them of the Chi that they know. Yes. So this is how these things are, and that's why I said people need to be very careful when they use the word worship. It's a very strong word. Yes. Yeah. That to give reverence to these things that are representing the real thing doesn't necessarily translate to worship. Okay. So that is one fact we need to understand.
Yeah, well, that's one dimension. So,
yes.
Let me get back to Gabriel Anichukwu, because sometimes I like you calling him from that angle, Gabriel, because sometimes we have statues of Saint Gabriel.
And by the way, today is the solemnity of the archangels. Yeah. Gabriel is one of them. Yes, yeah. September 29th in the Catholic Church.
So today is your day. So yes. So now that today is your day, And we're looking at these graven images, you know, because from what Father has just put down, based on the question, because we moved from, is it possible to have an altar in a void? And it's not possible to have an altar in a void. The church itself, every building is made by human hand. If you pick up, I mean, I want you to help us with this Ark of the Covenant. Would you help us with a picture? Do you remember that Ark of the Covenant?
Yeah. Focusing on this image,
Graven
image, I am convinced that all these calling these images object, they are not the core object of worship. They are not the core object of worship. Just like in Igbo cosmology, this Amadioha Ikenga, Arubinago, Ago, these they are called incorruptible agents of God. An agent is an agent, not the principal. So people, and he said, if in Igbo cosmology we believe, traditionally we Igbos believe that God Almighty, Chiuku Chineke, is so sacred to be approached by a mortal man full of sins. They need a mediator, intercessors.
Not only Igbos, so they did the April of Israel. The time, not the day. They wanted to see. They wanted to see. They told Moses, "We want to hear this your God ourselves."
Exactly. So now,
and they took 1 month to prepare.
So God is so sacred that He's the effulgence, the countenance of God. You cannot confront it. So they need a channel, intercessory. That's why in the Catholic faith, what was called altar of higher veneration, where you get this ark. Some great sense. They're not worshiping, the Catholic Church is not worshiping that sense per se, but they are channeling the prayers. According to Catechism of Catholic Church 956, says that these entities are closer to Jesus Christ. True Igbo man comes out in the morning before the sun, before the east, facing the east. He brings out cola. He sits down like a king. He doesn't bow down. He doesn't kneel down. There's a point I want to stress on. When he sits down like a king, he gives command. Ikenga, Arobinago, my grandfather. That's my grandfather. I ask you, Catholic Church like St. Paul, are closer to God Almighty. They can intercede for you, get results. So they are not worshiping. No, there's no worship given. No sensible man can give a worship to. It's just like a symbolic. In this pantheon, the images of this pantheon are symbolic.
I don't want to ask you this question, but let me continue.
So if you describe it down, so you say that if you come to the sacrament now, you say when they come there, when the Christians come,
something came into my head now about sectarianism, and I don't want to add worshiping graven images, because almost anything. But I saw a small box, and I said, "What is happening?" They said, "It is the Ark of the Covenant." And then I said, "No." Then I said, "I think I finished. I don't need any other investigation that particular day." Because if I come to Catholic crucifix, you have the crucifix, you have Jesus on the cross.
Crucifix.
If I come to the Methodist one or cross without
the image of Christ,
without the image of a man on the cross, you know, in the Catholic Church you will have the image of a man on the cross with INRI, you know. So, but outside that you will just have the cross. Then some other the new groups. I don't want to call it. No, you will not have them. So maybe when we come back now, because when we come back, we will take a break. This break is for what? This break is for advertisement. We will take this break. Okay. After the break, we will come back now and then look into this particular matter. Whether it is because last time somebody even accused some people of
worshiping devils.
Worshiping demons.
Devils.
Yes. So when we come back, we'll look into that.
There are questions the world are yet to answer. Truths buried in time, echoed in tradition, and hidden in the stars. From the rituals of the ancients to secrets of the atom, from the patterns in nature to the power of thought, Mysteries of Life takes you on a journey through the unknown, exploring the mystical, the philosophical, the traditional, and the scientific. What connects them all? What lies beneath the surface of what we know? Join us on Aneke TV as we uncover the secret layers and unlock the unseen. This is Mysteries of Life, where every truth begins with a question.
Yeah, welcome back, viewer. We have taken our break for advertisement, and we wish to have more people participate in this because we need to get our people to know more. Because the last time we met, you know, somebody was saying that all those who are, that for those like Catholics, let me use Catholics because let me not talk of other people, say that they are worshiping demons. And Father, I know you have spoken about that, but maybe I want Gabriel, who's celebrating today, you know, to speak more about it. Then we'll get back to you. You know, this idea that those who worship graven images, because I later found out that as I was walking through over the road and other parts of Enugu, I was seeing engravers. You know, then I saw those who make plaques and so on and so on. Then I watched what happened last weekend, you know, where there was the military parade, the personal parade of the NDA. And then I was happy. I was in, and I was watching what was going on. So these graven images. So I wanted to look at that. Is it like demon worship or bringing demon and so on and so on?
The greatest demon is unseen.
Okay.
Our thought forms is greatest demon we can have in life. Because from thoughts comes creation.
Okay.
That church or that church personality saying that the Catholic Church or the traditional religion people are worshiping images, are worshiping devils. The holy apparel, some people wear what they call bulletproof.
Yes.
These scapula, all these crucifix, they are sacramentals. They're sacramentals. They are not being worshipped.
Yeah, like those who put on bulletproof now. We don't need to know the church.
I said I was in a program. I said that whoever puts apron so that bullet will not enter, there's no difference between him and those person who did Odeshi from DB. The same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Father, I think we now come to you because based on this thing that we have, because you know people normally say that the Catholics worship all these statues, and we have cleared that already. Because when God after making the first Iyakubo, God, what did he do? He first of all did the Iyakubo. Then after that he breathed his spirit into it, and it became a living. So we have two things: one, that God did the Iyakubo as the first person that did the Iyakubo. Then he breathed into it the breath of life, and it became a living being. Then he did another engraving. I don't want to talk of all those altars, because at every stage of the journey of our father Abraham, he said Abraham got to this place and he built an altar, and he couldn't have built an altar in a void. He must have put one or two or three things together, like he mentioned our ancestors.
Yeah.
Igbo traditional religion until today. Then Abraham left. Then even after that, then the man called our father Isaac, after wrestling with the angel in Bethel, isn't it? He built an altar there.
Yeah.
Did he build it in a void? What he put up one or two or three things together and called that place an altar. Yeah. So and we went on and we went on and went on and we met Moses, and then Moses came down with the two plates of the 10 commandments. Yeah. He said, written in the fingers of God, the artwork of God, in that graven image. So, why do you think people normally want to demonize the Catholic Church? What is the problem?
Well, I will go back to the question you asked first.
Yes.
Is it now sectarian? What is actually underlying that attack, that onslaught? Okay. Most of the times, I mean, you've called it what it is. It's just people trying to pick quarrel, where there is none. Trying to demonize what. There's this feeling of I wouldn't want to use
Over holiness.
No, not really that. You know, you feel challenged by the larger than life image of the other person.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Like you are now, you are a professor in the university. I haven't attained to the rank of a professor. Yes, I'm a lecturer myself, but you are a professor already,
Okay.
which is the highest point one can reach. And then I begin to demonize or antagonize everything you do after he's a professor and so what and all that.
Okay.
The truth is, this person rose through the ranks in the academia and became a professor.
Yeah.
All I should do is to make efforts to understand, or when you are teaching, I should be able to listen to you because this is a professor in this discipline,
Yes.
and he knows better than me in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem that people have is not being open-minded enough to know that, look, you just admit this because most often when you engage people who antagonists in a conversation like this, you see them contradicting themselves. Just like what you said a moment ago, you just narrated, you recanted your experience of people who, you know, had problem with images, and you went to the same church where the preacher will always speak against images to see a box that is called an Ark of Covenant,
Yes.
reminding us of the Old Testament times where
Yes.
they had an ark that the people of Israel considered sacred.
Yes.
Now you have a thing like that, and you still come up. You are contradicting yourself because you are having something that is representing that image as this saying, "Oh, it's not good for people to keep it." You are condemning yourself in the process. So I think that's just the point, because there's no argument against the making of images that will even fly. The same person that is speaking against images have very big images of their father, of their mother, of their children, family pictures in their houses all over the place. They don't know those are images as well.
Or image of himself and his wife.
And his wife.
As the papa and the daddy
Exactly.
and the mommy
Yes.
of their
In the Lord.
congregation.
Yes.
in the Lord. I think
Daddy in the Lord.
I think
Mommy.
maybe I didn't add that one.
Daddy and mommy in the Lord.
In the
Exactly.
Lord, okay.
And they don't joke with those images. In fact, they can take a bullet in defense of those images, and they can kill you if you tamper with those images. There are people like that. In fact, the contradiction in this whole conversation, in this whole thing, is that people who speak against the use of images are people who are ready to lay down their life in defense of images. That's the image of the GO and his wife is so important that they are ready to do anything, including even laying down their lives.
I think
to
you mentioned
defend
one
it.
point. This the bulletproof.
Yes.
When you put this
Yes.
that apron
Yeah.
and you call it bulletproof.
So these are the issues.
And person who did Odeshi.
And they don't even know that that thing they're wearing actually representative of something.
Yes.
The person wearing that apron, for those the sect that wear it, believe that, okay, this is God protecting me.
Yes.
I'm wearing this in God's name, and I know that once I'm wearing this, I'm fine
free,
and protected,
yes.
and nothing will happen to me.
Fine.
They don't know that already represents something.
Worship.
So if you want to have everything in the world of ideas, then you shouldn't have it. So
Is it even possible to have it in the world of ideas?
that is the point. And that was why I quoted Aristotle initially,
Yes.
who said there is nothing in the intellect that was not first in the senses.
Good.
I mean, nobody has contested that submission of Aristotle. Nobody has contested it. You know, philosophers over time will always come back to it and say, look, the ancient Greek philosopher was right.
So because you spoke it in Latin,
Yes.
let me now say it in Igbo. Oya iluchukwu kana mkpụrụ obi.
Thank you very much. Exactly.
Not by catechism.
Yes.
Oya iluchukwu kana mkpụrụ obi. Because inside God has given us, and you use it. God has given us that.
But
thought
in
forms.
our senses already.
Yes.
As you are seated here now,
Yes.
you can picture God in your head.
Yes.
Nobody has seen God.
Yes.
But you have an image of who God is.
Except Moses that saw the back.
Thank you.
Except Moses that saw only the back.
Thank you.
Not
So you
beyond the
have an image of God in your head.
Okay.
Just like the images you see these days. We don't have technology and all that can give us the accurate image of Jesus Christ. But we know he lived some 2,000 and something.
Yeah, well, I think
years
they are still trying to get the voice of Jesus Christ. They are trying to track the actual voice,
Yeah.
the actual voice of Jesus Christ. They are
Of course,
looking for
with
it.
advancements in
They are looking for
artificial intelligence and all
They
that,
want to get the voice of Jesus.
Nothing is impossible these days. But going back we are way back in time. A lot of things have become many things that are possible now. Nobody ever imagined they were going to be possible some 10, 20 years ago. Okay. So technology is evolving, it's advancing, and there's no limit to what you don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
Okay.
With the way the technology is advancing. So this is how it is. I think most often people just argue just because they want to argue, and because they feel, This people's image is so intimidating. This people's position is so intimidating. That was something my brother said, off camera, that the Catholic Church is the most organized institution. It's the oldest institution, of course. And
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chinwendo Ifeanyi.
My name is Obobina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
The weekend was a brilliant one. It started off with Nigeria defeating Lesotho in Polokwane, South Africa. And that game, saw Nigeria cruising to victory until late on when Stanley Nwabali made some error that allowed Lesotho to get back into the game after they pulled one back. Eventually, he made another error that almost gifted the Crocodiles of Lesotho the equalizer. But Nigeria somehow managed to win the game. And now it is just one more game until Nigeria's fate at the 2026 World Cup is decided. And that game will be played tomorrow at the Gospel Akpabio Stadium, Uyo, where Nigeria will learn whether they will be going to the World Cup or not. Or maybe, just maybe, Nigeria would be making it into the playoff series. But that will be a tougher route. Good afternoon and welcome to Extra Time on Aneke TV. And this is where we bring you update on everything that's happened in the world of sports. The weekend has been filled with World Cup qualifiers on different levels, different continents. Let's also tell you that Ghana has joined Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, and Algeria in qualifying for the World Cup 2026. That means 5 teams from Africa has qualified, leaving just 4 more slots to be picked up. Nigeria hoping to pick up one of those slots. Now, we will take a very close look at the game that will be coming up tomorrow in Uyo. That game will be between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Benin Republic. Kenneth Rowe will be leading his boys down to Nigeria. They are already in Uyo. And Eric Shell has cancelled out media duties as he wants his team to train behind closed doors, especially because they have come under a lot of scrutiny from Nigerians during recent times, so he wants all the players focused. But the first thing we will do is to go straight to the MPFL to check out what happened in the MPFL this weekend. My name is Kelechi Naji. Now let's tell you that Kun Khalifat FC shocked the record champions Enyimba 1-0 in Owerri to end the People's Elephants' unbeaten start to the 2025/2026 Nigeria Premier Football League season, while Remo Stars are also slumped and to another defeat at Castina United to fall further down in the standings. It was a dramatic weekend in the MPFL as Matchday 8 delivered late goals, surprise results, and significant shifts across the tables. In Owerri, Ebuka Nwokorie's calling free kick on the 69th minute handed Kun Khalifat a famous win over Enyimba, who played the entire second half with 10 men after Henry Ndedi was sent off in the first half at stoppage time. The Owerri club are returning to their hometown ground at the Dan Anyam Stadium for the first time this season, kept their nerve to secure their second win of the campaign. The defeat ended Enyimba's 7-game unbeaten streak and dropped them to third with 13 points from 8 matches. Champions Remo Stars continued their poor run of form, losing 3-1 to Katsina United. Elijah Akani gave the host the lead on the 31st minute before Abubakar Ibrahim drew the champions level 8 minutes later. Uche Collins restored Katsina United's advantage from the penalty spot just after the hour mark, while Abdulrahman Garba sealed victory in the added time after goalkeeper Shabito failed to handle a free kick. The result means that the Sky Blue Stars have now lost 3 of their last 4 league matches, slipping to 12th with just 10 points. Katsina United, meanwhile, climbed to 6th with 12 points. In Umuahia, Abia Warriors maintained pressure on the league leaders Nasarawa United with a convincing 2-0 win over El Kanemi Warriors. Kasmia Azubike scored both goals within 4 minutes, striking on the 24th minute and the 28th minute to seal their 5th win of the campaign. The result keeps Abia Warriors second on 15 points, just 4 points behind Nasarawa United. The table toppers Nasarawa came from behind to defeat Rangers International 2-1 in Lafia, a game that has been marred by some controversy from the officiating. Wisdom Ebirim put Rangers International ahead in the 19th minute, but Anas Yusuf equalized from the penalty spot in the 32nd minute before John Joshua scored the second and the winning goal for the hosts in what is their 6th win of the season. The Solid Miners remain top with 19 points after 8 matches, extending their winning streak to 5. At the Sani Abacha Stadium, Adams Mustafa's stoppage time strike rescued a point for Shooting Stars in a 1-1 draw against Kano Pillars. Mustafa's Jibrin had earlier put the host in front on 9 minutes in Bauchi. And then in Bauchi, Wiki Tourist and Kwara United played out a 1-1 draw. Jonathan Mairiga opened scoring for the hosts before Tohib Gidado equalized just before halftime. Kwara goalkeeper Nuruddin Badmos was the hero, saving Abdullahi Usman's penalty and the rebound to preserve the points. Plateau United eased pressure with a 2-0 win over Barao FC in Jos. Amiatimi Enawarakwemi and Vincent Temitokwe scored within 5 minutes of each of the halves to give Plateau United the 2-0 victory. Warri Wolves and Niger Tornadoes shared the spoils in Ozoro, while Israel Al-Ledade gave Wolves the lead in the 18th minute, but then Thedo Shemande capitalized on a goalkeeper error to level the visitors 10 minutes later. In Lagos, Folarin Tomitokwe's 10th minute strike was enough to hand the Oga Boys a 1-0 victory over Bende Insurance at the Onika Waterfall. The Niger Delta derby between Rivers United and Bayelsa United was played this morning, and it was the Posterity Boys that defeated Rivers United in Port Harcourt. And Rivers United, the only remaining MPFL team to have not lost a game before this one, they lost this morning, and that means every team in the MPFL have now lost a game. Nasarawa United continue to lead the pack with 19 points after 8 matches, followed by Abia Warriors, and Enyimba has 13 points. Rivers United, they have 12 points, and they sit 4th. The Shooting Stars and Katsina United are also 5th and 6th. And at the other end, Barao remain bottom with 5 points, while Bende Insurance and Kud Qualified have just above them with 6 points and 8 points respectively. Remo Stars' slump sees them slide down to the bottom half of the table for the 2nd time this season in their title defense after being top in the match day 3, though they still have a game in hand. Meanwhile, Nasarawa United have established themselves as the league pacesetters in the early days of the new season. Now let's talk about what ensued in Kano after Shooting Stars grabbed their equalizer late on in the game. The Kano Pillars fans stormed the pitch and attacked the referee and also the opponent players. The general manager of Kano Pillars Football Club, Ahmed Musa, has issued an apology following the violent scenes that marred the team's Nigerian Premier Football League fixture against Shooting Stars Sports Club in Kano on Sunday evening. The match played at the Sani Abacha Stadium ended in chaos after Shooting Stars grabbed a late equalizer, prompting sections of the home supporters to invade the pitch and assault visiting players, referees, and match officials. Videos circulating online showed disturbing scenes of violence and panic, and in a letter shared as a statement, which was released shortly after the incident on social media handle late last night, Ahmed Musa condemned the action of the fans and took full responsibility on behalf of the club. And he said, I, Ahmed Musa, the general manager of Kano Pillars Football Club, extend my deepest and most sincere apologies to the unfortunate, painful and disgraceful incident that occurred during our game against Shooting Stars Sports Club on Sunday evening. The former Super Eagles captain described the event as heartbreaking, shameful and completely unacceptable, stressing that such conduct does not represent the ethos of the history of the club. And in his words, he said, what transpired against Shooting Stars is heartbreaking, shameful, and completely unacceptable. It does not represent the true values, identity, and proud history of Kano Pillars. This club has always stood for community, passion, respect, and values must never be overshadowed by violence or indiscipline. As a club with deep roots and loyal supporters, we are expected to set an example of fairness and honor on and off the pitch. Sadly, today we fell short of that standard, and he further said, to the players, coaches, officials, and supporters of Shooting Stars Sports Club, to the match referees and the league officials who were caught in this terrible situation, to the Nigerian Premier Football League Board and its partners at GTI, to the league organizers, and to every football fan across Nigeria and beyond who watched these scenes with anger, shock, and disappointment. I know how painful it must have been to witness something so damaging to our game, and I am deeply, deeply sorry, he stated. And then calling for calm and accountability, Musa reaffirmed the club's commitment to punishing those responsible. And he said once more, violence has no place in football. It is unacceptable, unjustifiable, and goes against everything this beautiful sport stands for. Football is meant to unite, to inspire, to bring joy. When it turns into scenes of chaos and harm, we must not pretend it away. We must confront it head on. I assure everyone that Kano Pillars FC will work closely with the relevant authorities to identify those responsible for this shameful act, and they will face the full consequences of their actions, he assured. He also admitted that apologies alone would not suffice and promised meaningful action. We understand that people alone are not enough. Apologies alone are not enough, he said. Words must follow by actions. We will take a huge step internally to ensure that something like this never happens again. Musa's message also addressed the Kano Pillars fans directly, urging them to embrace discipline and preserve the club's legacy. And that said, to our loyal fans, I want to speak directly to you. Kano Pillars is a proud club with a rich legacy, and you are at the heartbeat of the club. But true support is shown not through violence, but through respect, passion, and discipline. This must be a turning point for us. We must remind the world that our love for this club can be powerful without being destructive, that our passion can lift its image, not stain it. It continued. He concluded with a sweeping apology and commitment to rebuilding trust in Nigerian football, and he said, once again, on behalf of Kano Pillars Football Club, I offer my most heartfelt and unreserved apology to everyone affected, to the MPFL, to Shooting Stars, the referees, the fans, and Nigerians at large. Anyone who believes in the spirit of the game, we are sorry. I am sorry. We take full responsibility, and I will do everything necessary to restore trust, respect, and true spirit of sports in Kano and across Nigeria. That is Musa taking responsibility and apologizing for everything that happened in Kano. It was a very horrible scene, when the fans invaded the pitch and attacked the referees and the match officials in Kano. And remember, it is not the first time Kano pillars have been found in this sort of situation, as they have been receiving fines every now and then since 2018. If you total all the fines they have paid to the club, it will be a total of 36.75 million naira. That's the total fine Kano Pillars has paid to the MPFL board since 2018. All of these fines were from cases of violence and failing to control their fans. All right, now let's move on from the NPFL and go straight to the Super Eagles camp as they get ready to take on Benin Republic. But before we talk about the game against Benin Republic, let's remind you that on Friday, they defeated Lesotho 2-1 in Polokwane. Now, Nigeria's Super Eagles kept their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification hopes alive with a hard-fought 2-1 victory over Lesotho at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane on Friday evening. After a goalless first half that saw Nigeria struggle to break down a compact Lesotho side, Captain William Troost Ekong broke the deadlock in the 55th minute from the penalty spot following a foul inside the box. It made it a 1-1. A situation a lot of people have said it is a goalkeeping error. Despite the late pressure from the Crocodiles, the Super Eagles held firm to secure their 3 volatile points. And the win lifts Nigeria back into the contention ahead of the final group clash against Benin Republic in Uyo tomorrow. And the match could determine who goes to the World Cup from that group and who does not. Despite the victory, Nigeria's qualification fate remains out of their hands. Benin Republic sits top of the group with 17 points, followed closely by South Africa, who has 15 points, meaning that the Super Eagles will need to win their last match and hope the results elsewhere go their way. Rwanda, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe complete the standings, with each team now mathematically out of the contention. The Super Eagles of Nigeria, they have now arrived Uyo in preparation for the game tomorrow. And they are in Akwa Ibom as we speak. And ahead of their crucial World Cup qualifying clash against Benin Republic, following a tense travel experience that briefly delayed their journey. Remember, while they were journeying back to Nigeria, their plane had a little windscreen clash that they had to make an emergency stop and eventually took another flight back to Nigeria. The team touched down safely at the Victor Atta International Airport, Uyo, at 8 a.m. on Sunday, and after unexpected mid-air scare, forced their chartered flights to make an emergency return to Angola on Saturday. Despite the travel setback, the Super Eagles are wasting no time as they prepare for Monday's must-win fixture. It was gathered that the team will hold a closed-door training session on Sunday and also today. The session will be later in the evening today at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium, Uyo. And the session will be strictly private, with no media or public access allowed, as head coach Eric Schell and his tactical crew focus on recovery and tactical fine-tuning ahead of the decisive encounter. Also, a press conference has been slated for later in the evening today at the Stadium Media Center, where Schell and some selected players will address the journalists. This will be followed by the official training session starting at 6 p.m. with the first 15 minutes open to the media, and then the media will be allowed to leave for them to continue their training. Now, the Super Eagles meeting with Benin Republic comes at a critical point in their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign, with Nigeria needing maximum points to keep their qualification hopes alive. All right, and let's give you some little build-up to this particular game, as it will be a crucial game. And yes, the Super Eagles will trade tackles with the Cheetahs of Benin Republic at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium tomorrow. This is a game with grave importance for both countries. It is the final game for both countries in the 2026 World Cup qualifier series, and a win could decide who eventually grabs the 2026 World Cup ticket from Group C. Benin Republic currently top the group, and even a draw could see them through, provided that Rwanda can hold South Africa in the other group game. But Nigeria can also steal a ticket if they defeat Benin Republic and South Africa drops points against the Amavubis of Rwanda. Now, when will this game be played and by what time? It will be at the Goswell Pabio Stadium, Uyo, and it will be tomorrow, Tuesday, October 14th at 5 p.m. It is the World Cup qualifiers, and if you take a look at the head-to-head between Nigeria and Benin Republic, unlike Nigeria, who are heavyweights on the continent, Benin Republic have always been minnows in African football. As such, the Super Eagles have always dominated them in their fixtures. In the 17 meetings, the Super Eagles have won 13 games and drawn 3 and lost just once. The loss came in the same World Cup qualifiers, which was the first leg played in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. And the reverse fixture of it is the one that will be played tomorrow. Benin Republic hosted Nigeria in Abidjan since they didn't have a stadium fit enough to play a match of this standard at home. But even without their home crowd, they came from behind to defeat Nigeria 2-1. However, since that time, Nigeria have faced Benin Republic twice in the African Cup of Nations, and they trashed them 3-0 first before settling for a 1-0 draw in the second leg. Recent form for the two sides, the Super Eagles have not lost in their last 5 games, picking 3 draws and 2 wins in their last 5 games. Benin Republic have won 3 and lost 2. Those three wins have come all in the qualification series. Since appointing Garnet Raw 2 years ago, things have turned around for the Cheetahs, and they now are very close to being at the World Cup for the first time. Nigeria versus Benin Republic. A game Nigeria needs to win to qualify, as well as we will be praying that South Africa drops point in their game. And just somehow, Nigeria might qualify for the World Cup automatically. Before now, it looked very, very slim, but now it is looking very, very likely, even though the entire fate is not in our hands. This is how we say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on Extra Time on Aneke TV. And tomorrow, remember, will be the game day for the Super Eagles. It will be the day Nigeria learns her fate concerning the World Cup 2026. So please, we wish Nigeria well, and we wish that we will be at the World Cup. Don't forget to join us on social media. It is Aneke TV on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. My name is Kelechi Naji. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obobina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Mama, we go to the obeba ya kwa mu na ma na mu kwa ndi ni ma jo wo ndi de kokori do do de do da mu na iya do do de ka iya do da mu no go no mu ke ke do do de ke ayi de ke je do do de ke mu go ga do do ko ko ma sha mi do do de ke ti do na ma lo lo ko wo ele yo baba yi wo bu ji be go je ka kala wo la ke do ku bi de ya do lu bu la bu le je no ke do wo dulo to goro iya wa ta mo de wo ku wa tu wa na ni de ni ba ku ku mo so ma la ku ko to de ni da ma jo
Enugu is one of the 36 states of Nigerian Federation. It is located on a hilltop in the southern part of the country. It has a rich history and robust cultural heritage that boasts its uniqueness. Igbo is a widely spoken language in Enugu State. Enugu is popularly called the Coal City State because of its large deposits of coal and other mineral resources. Enugu has 17 local government area councils. The history of Enugu dates back to the early 20th century when the British discovered coal in the Udi Hills in 1909, which led to the development. All right, thank you for joining us today on yet another interesting episode of The Arena, coming to you on Aneke Television. My name is Chris Anibuogu, still in the spirit of the celebration of independence, Nigeria 65. It's time for us to take a look at our journey so far with regards to the health and medical sector. How far have we come? It is said that a healthy people makes a healthy nation. Has the country fared well medically, health-wise? Well, these issues and more will be taken on the show today. And then we have joining us to do justice to this matter, of course, the man who actually is in the right position to talk to us about this matter. He is the chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association, Enugu State. He's as well a consultant pediatrician. Dr. Chibuzo Ndiokwelo. It's a pleasure to have you join us, sir.
Thank you very much.
I don't know which way to go now. Is it doc or is it cha?
Anyone.
Doc and cha.
I mean, doctor, primarily.
Yes.
I mean,
and then by virtue of your position, you are the chairman.
Yes.
All right. You're welcome, sir. Yes, the health and medical sector in Nigeria. How far? How well so far? Nigeria is 65. Can we beat our chest proudly and say, yes, we're on track, the right track, so to say, when we consider the health and medical sector in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much for having me in this program. The question you asked, for every sector, I'm sure everybody asks him or herself that kind of question.
Yeah.
You know, for every sector you are involved in, you ask yourself how far, how well we have done. And it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed piece. That question comes with mixed feelings. Okay. Because at 65, most of the people at the helms of affairs of the country are older than Nigeria. You know, and it comes with a lot of, you know, nuances. You know that you find out that it appears as if Nigeria is not as fresh, you know, as new with ideas, you know, because of the leadership we've had over the years, from the military dictatorship to semi-military dictatorship to what we have today now, which is branded as the Nigerian type of democracy.
Nigerian type of democracy.
Yes, exactly. And in the health sector, it's I will refrain from using certain words to describe what it is, because in a country where you have the top brass of the government seeking for medical care outside the country, I mean, you know, it doesn't really encourage or engender confidence in the health system.
Really, really worrisome.
Yes, it's very worrisome, you know. But it doesn't mean that we've not had, we've not made giant strides, you know, in our medical care. You know, if you have doctors that are trained here, see how well they do outside the country, how well they are being pushed and recruited.
And that begins to baffle us most of the times. How come we say we operate substandardly here, but then our medical doctors seem to be the bride of the rest part of the world?
Yeah, the thing there is that in the health sector there are two aspects. You have the human resources, there are material resources. The human resources, the doctors, the other staff, the welfare of that particular manpower.
Okay.
The other aspect has to do with equipment, facilities to work with. You find out the average Nigerian doctor is expertly trained, very well trained. It's not what in the books, all right, most of the time, and then basic things for learning. Is well trained. The question is, after you finish training the doctor, he becomes a specialist, all right? He will want to work with specialist equipment, yes, and give the best to the populace. But you find out that the way our things are, I mean, government hospitals, government parastatals, government anything, how are they well managed? You know, so you find out that some of these things, even if you procure them, you know, but the management style of this is our Nigerian style of government thing, you know, so maintenance culture and all that. You find out that over time, some of those things, at least when I trained, there are some equipments that I trained with that the younger ones that are coming now, they find it difficult to operate. Yes, they find it difficult to access because they are no longer there. It's now that our chief medical director is now trying to procure some of those things. So you find out that it becomes frustrating as a trained medical doctor to balance the welfare that you expect to get after all that years of dedication. In fact, for you to practice medicine appropriately, you will have to dedicate 50% of your life to that course. And I mean, you know, it's not the same as a lot of professions. So, and when you are doing that, for you not to be distracted, you know, for you not to have this thing they talk about, you have to have multiple sources of income. I mean, in America, those things don't occur. If they are paid very well, you focus on give your patients the best.
That's
So
right.
for you to now go into the streets like every other person, hustle, try to do private practice, all those things, it becomes a challenge. It becomes challenging. I mean, paying what the country is like now. Some doctors, their 1 month salary can't pay for their house rent, can't pay for anything. So they find out that you become distracted, and the average doctor has a particular level of prestige, or there are things that he would want to do. So you find out that it now creates this avenue for brain drain. People want to go to where they will give their all to the patient, and then they are well taken care of. All right. So if you look at the globe, look at it holistically, our health sector has a challenge.
Okay.
In the sense that most of the government-owned hospitals, all right, have infrastructure deficits. They have infrastructure deficits. Both the government hospitals, both the government-owned schools, where you train also the students, medical students and all that, where the medical doctors also lecture, there are serious infrastructure deficits. And, we see people in government prioritizing other things, things
above.
Yes, above the health
sector.
Yes, exactly. So, and when they say health is well, people don't understand that one day you will land on the table of a doctor, So, and the way they, prioritize things makes it difficult for the health sector to move in leaps and bounds, and get to where we want it to be, at the national level. At the state level, some of the governments are trying. Delta State government is trying with the universal health insurance. Enugu State is doing well with universal health insurance.
Okay.
And even the governor is a lawyer, the deputy is a lawyer, but the kind of, searchlight they are beaming on the health sector means that the man is a very smart man.
In Enugu State?
Yes, yes.
All right, we'll dedicate a quality time of this discussion to what is going on in the state. All right, so, but for you now as a medical doctor, are you satisfied with what we have in Nigeria as a people? Talking about health and medics.
No, that's a capital no. Any doctor that will tell you, give you half yes. It's not being sincere.
Wow, that's really not encouraging.
No, that's not encouraging. If it's encouraging, we can't have the #1 man in the country seeking for help outside.
Over time, we've seen where 1 or 2 governments have come into office and it's okay. No more medical tourism for government officials. But then it ends up on the papers. Implementation becomes problematic.
Yes. We saw what happened during COVID. It's the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, then, may he so rest in peace, Kyari.
Yes.
Kyari said that he was shocked to find out that some hospitals don't have ventilators. Even the Asura clinic, he was shocked because most of these people don't interact with these our hospitals. If they do, they will understand the decay. And that's why if you have a policy that will mandate or make it compulsory for these people that are taken care of by the state resources to seek health care in the country, among other things, they will dedicate their time in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, making sure that those health facilities are top notch, because that's place it will end up.
But again, Doc, I wouldn't know. Where do you think the problem actually lies? Is it an intentional act that our leaders just wish to have your sector, the medical sector, remain the way it is? Or is it an indication of ignorance? Is it, some persons have called 1 or 2 policies of government or their style of leadership, what do they call it again? Conspiracy theory. Conspiring against the people to keep the people down. Do you think that is actually what is going on between the leadership and those of you who are in the medical sector? Just to keep you low.
Well, I don't think it's a willful act. I think it's
not intentional.
I don't think it's intentional, but I think it's a combination of a lot of things you talked about: ignorance, politics, right? Institutional decay at the governance level, there are many aspects, many things that, conspire within, many things that conspire to keep us where we are. Not that there's an intentional, there's an idea intentionally designed to make sure that our health systems are like that. No, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe it exists. But I know that there are many reasons, because like it's when you interact with some of these people in power, you find out that some of them don't really know that we have challenges, right? So there are a lot of things. Some of them genuinely don't know that we have these challenges. Yes, some don't know. You find out that some even people in the health sector and are not presenting these issues in the manner the average politician will understand it, the language that they hear.
Isn't that where you should be coming in as the association holding the medicals together?
Why are we on air? Yeah, I've been on air. I've had to speak. No,
so you should be bridging the gap with the association.
I've had to speak with. I've had to speak on air, about some of these things, and I've had to interface with. The government of the day. People and the health pilots in the system, in the state, to discuss some of the issues. And, so if you want to channel or zero in on the state, they are doing a lot. They're even ahead of us. These people are really...
I know, we're going to give you quality time to talk to us about what's going on in the state. Before we get there, what does it really take to have a doctor trained?
Wow.
What does it take to have a doctor trained?
It takes a community.
It takes a community.
Yes, it's something that when I look back, in fact, I never thought of it apart from. How should I say? I've not thought of it in this manner till today. I was at the business center trying to print out some documents, and then I saw students coming to register for school. They're starting a new semester and all that, and then one was a nursing student, one was a medical student, and I saw their school fees 1 point something. No, so it's
when you say 1 point something million.
Yes, first year, second year students, in the private university in this town. So I was like, wow, So we're discussing with the person that owns the business center. It was like, after all this, I now started reflecting. Well, what the family is going through to put these people through this, and then what the person goes through, spending years in university, sacrificing his time. When I trained in UNEC, it's a norm. Everybody knows medical students don't go on holiday. We don't go on holiday. You spend that 6 years, come out, do your house job for 1 year, do your service for 1 year, 8 years minimum. Then you start doing a residency, 8 years, 18 years trying to get to where somebody, your mate finished in 4 years and got a job and moved on. They're trying to get to become a specialist. And all through that time, the commitment from you, your family, and your community is huge. And when you finish, and that's why it appears as if the burden is more on the health sector with respect to doctors, because after all that, a lot of people depend on you. So that's why doctors feel like after all that commitment to human development and you are where you are, you know your worth, why do you settle for less when you are much more appreciated outside? And that's why you see this brain drain, Jabba syndrome and all that, So it takes a lot to train a doctor. It takes a lot to retain them too, because the way the system is, it's not that encouraging. Like the average professor doesn't earn up to $1,000. Not in this country. $1,000 average professor. How do you? In fact, when you put it into, when you analyze it, it's mind-boggling. And that's the top echelon of the professor or CMD or chief medical officer. Not even anywhere near $1,000. So you ask yourself, what can you do? Can you even attend international conferences? Can you even publish papers? If you want to publish a paper, 3,000, 4,000 euros. So how do you fit, what becomes your worth after all that? All right, so these are the challenges that average doctor faces. No, most people don't understand these things. All right. So it takes a lot to train a doctor. It takes a lot, and even the government also. The government commits also to training doctors. At least in the government,
they do
hospitals. Yes.
Okay.
In the government hospitals, you know, the not government hospitals, government universities. The government universities. There's a way the system is designed to, you know, make it easier for the doctor to be trained here. You know?
Maybe they subsidize the cost.
Yeah, there's a I won't call it subsidy, because we call it subsidy. I mean, when we were in school, nobody told us that our school fees was subsidized. It's not anywhere. But when you look at it in the real sense of it, to compare it to what, you know, is obtainable in other places, you find out that there's something that they do to make it easier for people to be able to, you know, practice, or rather, so to be trained, you know, doctors in the country.
So that's a kudos to the government side now.
Yeah, they do their bit. They do their bit. You know, they do their bit. But,
okay, now before we go, I want to understand clearly, Doctor, what has happened to you, the doctors now? What has happened to sacrifice? It takes a lot to have you trained, but your training is here, and all of a sudden, you abandon the people here, abandon our hospitals, and then you're looking elsewhere. You want to go where the pastures are greener. What has happened to sacrifice, at least for the sake of the people, the vulnerable members of society who constantly are in need of medical and health care? When you abandon the hospital just for the sake of greener pastures, what about them?
Okay, so you know that...
especially when you know fully well that those of them within the corridors of power will always access you wherever you go.
Yeah.
But for the less privileged and vulnerable, they will not be able to do that.
Yeah, so in 2017, luckily I was there in Chicago.
Okay.
Where the physician's oath was revised. And one aspect of the revision that was added there was I should be able to take care of myself so that I can take care of my patient.
Okay, so the I before the we.
It is very important. The doctor, I consult in Niger Foundation here. Professor Picardo dropped dead seeing a patient. I'm not saying he wasn't well or he wasn't fit. I mean, but are you going to drop dead while managing the patient? You need to be alive. You need to be well before you know, so you can offer your best services. It's now inscribed in the physician's oath. So your health is something that you must take care of. So in the general scheme of things, you will find out that most doctors that leave this country, they leave this country, stay 5 to 10 years, to come back here to be able to be comfortable enough to give their best. Ask around. Most doctors that we know, most doctors that are our colleagues, they go back there, spend 7 years, 8, 10 years, they are back. And now they can...
You don't really return?
I mean, the health sector. Look at most of the private hospitals, a lot of the big private hospitals that you see in some parts of the country, all right? Their doctors are trained outside. Even in Lagos, all those big hospitals, all those things, most of them are foreign trained doctors.
Okay.
And you know that the best you can get in this planet is in your house, in your home. They all come back. There's nobody, very few people, if I can think of any, would want to retire in a white man's world. White man's. Why are you comfortable? You come back to your home. Most people that have the intention of living, the only reason you are leaving this country, the only reason anybody leaves this country is not just because of a better life or you see light every day or you open the tap and it's running. It's because they want to improve their capacity financially to be able to, you know, live appropriately within the country and provide services. If you don't have, okay, I was discussing with one traditional ruler yesterday.
Okay.
He was a nurse for 37 years. He's been a nurse for 37 years. He lived abroad for more than 2 decades. He came back here, built a hospital, a nurse, gave it to doctors to manage. You know, they gave him, before you knew it, he's now the traditional ruler, living here. You know, he has helped his community. He's helping his community. You know, it's all that he did abroad. That's why we are giving back. He's just not one of them. There are many. I know, if I leave this country today, what am I doing at 78, 60 something abroad? If I spend 10 years abroad, I come back here, enroll in one university, continue giving the information I have, knowledge I have, translating it to the younger medical students. If I have enough, if I master enough well, I build the hospital, specialize in one particular aspect, and start improving the services in that specialist area. People do that. That's what has been happening. You find in different parts of the country.
Okay, if that's really what it is,
let me give you an example. People are going. A lot of our people go to Saudi, Kuwait. Do they want to live in Saudi forever? They want to live in Kuwait.
Well, maybe
is that financial capacity they want to acquire? Because the truth is, look at where we are. The young doctor that's starting today as a resident doctor is paid around 300 and something thousand. Is that a livable wage?
Somebody was asking me the other day. He said, "What really does the Nigerian doctor want?" I told him I'm not one, but I'm privileged to be with one. So when we come back from this break, we'll ask you that question. What really do you want?
Yes.
All right, so there viewer, we're having discussion today with Dr. Chibuzo Ndiokwelu, who is the chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association, Enugu State Chapter. And we're looking at Nigeria 65. How far have we gone? How far have we come with our health and medical sector? Stay with us, we'll be back. Welcome to Aneke TV, the heartbeat of culture, truth, and innovation. From breaking news to inspiring documentaries, from grassroots traditions, mysteries of life to global perspectives, we'll tell your stories. We amplify your voice and your vision. With every screen we light up, we connect, inform, and empower. It's more than a television. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world. All right, so you're welcome to the program. You're welcome back to the program. And we are still having the honor and pleasure of the presence of Dr. Chibuzo Ndiokwelu. All right, so back to you now. What really does the Nigerian doctor want?
Okay.
In specific.
Nigerian doctor wants the best for the country. All right. The Nigerian doctor wants a happy workforce, medical workforce. If you have a happy medical workforce, they'll give their best. And they will be happy to stay back and do the best for them. Of course, our biggest problem, two facets, just like I said. Our biggest problem is welfare issues with respect to remuneration, basic